Growing up, it was just me and Mom. Dad bailed when I was just a tyke, a faded memory more than anything else. Mom worked her fingers to the bone, juggling jobs left and right to keep us afloat and to make sure I could hit the books hard. Because of her sacrifices, I snagged a grant that got me through college without the mountain of debt that was common these days. I studied business management, driven by a cocktail of ambition and fear of ever being as broke as we were when I was a kid. After graduating, I packed up my life and moved to the city. It was a tough start, living in a cramped apartment and surviving on ramen more nights than I'd like to admit. But I landed a job at a large company, started as a junior, and clawed my way up. Fast forward a few years, and I was not just working there, I was running a whole department. It was more than a job, it was my turf, and I made sure everyone who worked with me knew they were valued. You gotta lead with respect, I'd say during the trainings for the newbies. Treat this job like you own it, and soon enough, you won't just be part of the team, you'll be leading it. The team was solid, a bunch of good folks. When I got the nod for the department head spot, we hit the local bar to celebrate. It was nothing fancy, just a cozy place where the beer was cold and the laughs were plenty. Here's to Erica, the boss lady. Marco, one of my oldest colleagues, raised his glass high. The others joined in, the clinks of glasses echoing over the buzz of the bar. Thanks, guys. We're all in this together. Here's to kicking more ass and taking names. I shouted over the noise, and the team roared back in approval. That night, amid the backslaps and cheers, I noticed him, Jake. He caught me looking and sauntered over with a grin that could knock you off balance. Couldn't help but notice the celebration. What's the occasion? He asked, leaning against the bar. Just a little career boost. I'm the new head of my department now, I said, trying not to sound too braggy. That's impressive. Must be a tough gig, he replied, nodding appreciatively. I'm Jake, by the way. Erica. Nice to meet you, Jake. We got to talking more seriously than I intended that night. Turns out, Jake was a financier, knew his way around numbers like I did around project plans. Over the next 6 months, what started as casual dates turned into weekends spent together, and not long after, I was spending more time at his place than my own. He had a killer apartment, high ceilings, a view that made you want to brag about it, and a warmth that my dingy rental couldn't match. One evening, as we were overlooking the city lights from his balcony, Jake turned to me, a serious look washing over his usually playful face. He took my hands in his, and I could feel the nervous energy vibrating through them. Erica, these past months with you have been the best of my life. I know this might seem fast, but when you know, you just know, right? He started, his voice a mix of certainty and hope. I nodded, the cityscape blurring a bit as my heart started to race. He pulled out a small box from his jacket and opened it to reveal a ring that caught the light just right, sparkling almost as much as his eyes. Will you marry me, Erica? Yes, Jake. Absolutely, yes. I managed, my voice thick with emotion. And just like that, I was engaged. Engaged to a man who saw me, really saw me, and loved all the parts of me, even the ones that were tough as nails. The day I was supposed to meet Jake's parents, my stomach was in knots. As Jake drove us up to a sprawling mansion with a driveway longer than my entire apartment block, it hit me, these folks were not just well off, they were loaded. Stepping out of the car, I could feel the weight of the place. The house looked like something out of an old British movie, all brick and ivy, with gargoyles staring down like they knew I didn't belong. Jake squeezed my hand as we walked up to the huge oak doors. You'll be fine, Erica, he whispered, but his voice sounded like he was trying to convince himself too. The doors swung open, and there stood Mr. and Mrs. Hargrove. His suit probably cost more than my rent, and her dress was something you'd see in a magazine. The foyer was massive, with a chandelier overhead that sparkled like a constellation. The walls were lined with portraits of stern-looking folks with titles like Sir and Lady. Erica, lovely to finally meet you. I'm Charles, and this is my wife, Eleanor, Mr. Hargrove said, his voice smooth but cool, with a hint of an English accent that sounded practiced. Mrs. Hargrove gave me a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Pleased to meet you both, I managed, trying to keep my voice steady. As we moved into the dining room, Jake whispered quick tips about which fork to use for what, but his words were a jumble in my head. Dinner was served, and it felt like sitting in a freezer, the air so cold with judgment. Mr. Hargrove pointed to a portrait of a stern-looking man with a thick beard. That's Sir Reginald Hargrove, a direct ancestor from England. Came over in the 1800s to establish our family here, he said proudly. Really impressive, I said, trying to sound enthusiastic, but it was hard to eat when you felt like every move was being critiqued. I reached for what I thought was the salad fork, but the silence that followed told me I'd messed up. I glanced at Jake for help, but before he could whisper anything, Mrs. Hargrove's voice cut through. Perhaps things are done differently where you come from, dear, she said, each word sharp and precise. Sorry, still getting the hang of all this, I mumbled, my cheeks burning hot. Jake tried to smooth things over, jumping into a story about us, but his parents were more interested in watching my struggle with the dessert spoon next. I felt smaller with each course, their stares heavy on my shoulders. After the icy dinner, we all shuffled into the Hargroves' expansive living room. The plush carpets and heavy curtains made the room feel even more suffocating than the dining hall. I sunk into one of the ornate chairs, feeling like I was an exhibit in a museum about commoners. Mrs. Hargrove, perched elegantly on the edge of her seat, leaned forward. Erica, dear, tell us more about your family. Your upbringing must have been quite different from ours. I hesitated, feeling Jake's tense gaze on me. Well, it was mostly just me and my mom. My dad left when I was really young, and I don't remember him much. Mom did everything to raise me on her own. She's a nurse. The room fell deathly silent. Mrs. Hargrove stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the wood floor like a scream. This is unacceptable, she declared, her voice resonating with disgust. We are descendants of an ancient English lineage. We have standards, traditions. I cannot, will not, allow my only son to marry someone without pedigree or knowledge of her own lineage. Mr. Hargrove, who had been silently observing the conversation, finally spoke. His words were calculated, each one dropping like a weight. It's essential for us that our family ties are strong and well documented. Erica, can you even name your great-grandparents? I felt my face heat up, the embarrassment gnawing at me. I only know about my maternal grandparents, I confessed, my voice barely above a whisper. Mr. Hargrove rolled his eyes, a clear sign of contempt. This is exactly what we feared, he muttered under his breath. Jake finally intervened, his tone firm yet pleading. Mom, Dad, please. Erica is kind, hardworking, and she loves me. Isn't that what should matter? His mother's gaze was steely. Respect and adherence to our family standards are what matter, Jacob. If Erica is to join this family, she must learn our ways. She needs to respect where she is coming from, even if it is nowhere significant. Their words stung, slicing through the warm feelings from earlier in the evening. But Jake was looking at me, his eyes begging me to just go along with it. I nodded, reluctantly agreeing to their terms. Fine, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I'll learn about your family and your traditions. Mrs. Hargrove seemed somewhat placated by my concession. Good. You'll start by familiarizing yourself with our family tree and understanding who each person in those portraits is. It's not just about names, Erica. It's about respect for our lineage. As they continued talking about their expectations, I felt a part of me shrivel up. The evening had turned from a simple meet and greet into a trial by fire. I had agreed to their demands, yes, but at what cost? As the room filled with discussions of ancestors and noble deeds, I couldn't help but feel alienated from these people and, oddly enough, from the parts of Jake that were tied so tightly to them. The weeks following that stiff dinner were a whirlwind. I barely had time to catch my breath between working my day job and attending the slew of etiquette and style courses that Mr. and Mrs. Hargrove insisted I take. My day started with the buzz of an alarm before sunrise and ended long after the sun had set, leaving me feeling like a zombie. Elbows off the table, Erica, the etiquette instructor chided gently during one of our sessions. And remember, the soup spoon moves away from you when you scoop. I nodded, attempting to mirror her movements, but my mind was on a million other things, like the mountain of work waiting for me back at the office and the never-ending wedding plans. "You're doing well," she reassured, her voice soothing. "These things take time to become second nature." I gave her a weak smile. "Thanks, it's a lot, you know?" As if on cue, my phone rang. It was Mom. I excused myself and stepped outside to take the call, pressing the phone against my ear while trying to find a quiet corner in the bustling city. "Hi, Mom," I greeted, my voice more tired than I intended. "Erica, darling, how are the wedding preparations going?" she asked, her voice filled with excitement and a hint of concern. I hesitated, not wanting to worry her. "It's all good. Learning a lot, even picked up how to waltz," I said, trying to keep my tone light. There was a pause, and I knew she wasn't entirely convinced. "You sound exhausted, honey. Are you getting enough rest? You know, all this shouldn't be so hard. You need to take care of yourself." I chuckled weakly. "I'll try, Mom. But there's a lot to juggle right now. Etiquette classes, dance lessons, work, and the wedding planning. Just remember what's important, Erica. It's you and Jake at the end of the day, not all these rules and lessons." Her words were a balm, but as soon as we hung up, the weight of reality settled back on my shoulders. I was caught in a tug-of-war between pleasing Jake's parents and maintaining my sanity. Every day felt like a marathon with no finish line in sight. Back inside, I resumed my training, the instructor's voice a droning background noise as I practiced the proper way to hold a wine glass, pinch the stem, not the bowl, apparently. In the rare moments of downtime, I'd find myself staring at the ceiling, wondering if all this was worth it. The constant scrutiny, the endless classes, the cold looks from Mr. and Mrs. Hargrove whenever I slipped up, which was more often than I liked to admit. One evening, as I was about to drift off to sleep, my phone buzzed. It was Jake, his text lighting up the screen. "How was your day? Miss you." I stared at the message, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. I wanted to tell him everything, to pour out my frustrations and fears, but I held back. Instead, I typed a simple, "Miss you too. Long day, but all good." As I set the phone down, the silence of my apartment felt overwhelming. Was this how it was going to be? Pushing through the exhaustion, smiling through the stress, all for the sake of fitting into a world that seemed increasingly alien to me? The big day had finally arrived. The venue was a flurry of flowers, fancy dresses, and the faces of the city's high society milling about. My stomach was in knots. As I stood in my long, flowing white dress, trying to catch a breath, my mom came over, adjusting a stray curl on my forehead. "Everything will be just fine, Erica," she reassured me with a soft smile. I wanted to believe her, but the minute the ceremony began, any hope of a peaceful wedding evaporated. Jake's parents were on a warpath of superiority. Mr. Hargrove greeted guests with an air of boastfulness, and Mrs. Hargrove was quick to point out to anyone within earshot how they had made everything possible. As the guests settled, I tried to mingle, but Mrs. Hargrove pulled me aside with a frosty smile. "Erica, dear, make sure our friends are taken care of. Fetch some drinks, there's a good girl," she instructed, gesturing imperiously towards a group of elderly gentlemen discussing politics loudly. "But," I started, only to be cut off by her sharp glance. "No buts. You're practically family now, show some initiative," she snapped. Reluctantly, I carried trays of champagne and hors d'oeuvres between tables, my dress trailing behind me. The weight of the fabric and the task made me feel more like a servant than a bride. I caught glimpses of Jake laughing and chatting, oblivious to my plight. As I passed another round of drinks, I overheard Mrs. Hargrove's voice rise above the chatter. "Erica will be serving us tonight. It's good practice for her, don't you think?" Her tone was condescending, her eyes scanning the crowd for approval. That was the last straw. I approached her, my hands shaking slightly but my voice firm. "I am not a waitress at my own wedding." There are staff here who are supposed to do this. Mrs. Hargrove stood up, her expression one of mock surprise. You should be grateful we allowed such a simple girl into our family. Remember your place, Erica, she hissed, her words like daggers. I felt a flush of anger rise to my cheeks. This is my wedding, not a performance for your friends, I retorted, my voice louder than intended. The room fell silent. All eyes were on us now. Jake, catching the tail end of our exchange, stumbled over, a glass of champagne in hand. What's going on here? He slurred slightly, his eyes not fully focusing. Your mother is treating me like a servant at our wedding, Jake. This isn't what today is supposed to be about, I said, frustration boiling over. Jake looked between me and his mother, his expression clouding. Erica, why are you making a scene? Just do what my mom asks. It's not a big deal. Not a big deal? Jake, this is our day, and your mom is ruining it, I shot back, disbelief and hurt swirling together. He took a long sip of his champagne before speaking. Look, Erica, you should be happy I even chose you. There were plenty of girls better than you, prettier, richer. You're making a fuss over nothing. The words stung like a physical slap. I recoiled, the realization hitting me hard. The man I loved, the man I was about to marry, didn't see us as partners. To him, I was just another accessory, something to be molded and fit into the perfect image his parents wanted. As I clutched my bouquet tighter, feeling like I might crumble right there, my mom came over. She took one look at me and wrapped me in her arms, the kind of hug that seemed to hold the world at bay. Honey, do you love this man? Do you really want to marry him? She whispered, her voice filled with worry. I shook my head, barely able to muster the voice to speak. No, Mom, I can't do this. I don't want to. Mom nodded, her jaw setting in that determined way that I knew all too well. She gently took the bouquet from my hands and guided me to a chair, her touch reassuring. Then, with a surprising sprightliness, she approached the DJ, asked for the microphone, and turned to face the gathered crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Her voice, clear and steady, cut through the murmurs, drawing every eye in the room to her. There was a hush, the kind that precedes a storm. She took a deep breath and turned to face Mr. and Mrs. Hargrove directly. I have something important to share, about truth and pretense, she began, her gaze unwavering. I went to the same school as Charles and Eleanor Hargrove. Back then, they didn't carry an English accent or boast of noble blood. Their families were hard-working folks just like ours. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Charles's father was a mechanic, and Eleanor's mother served tables at the local diner. She paused, letting the words sink in. The portraits, the accents, the surname, they bought them. All to craft a past that would hide where they really came from. The room erupted into whispers, guests turning to stare at the Hargroves, their faces a mix of shock and disbelief. Mrs. Hargrove stood up, her face red, the facade of aristocracy melting away. That's preposterous. But my mom wasn't finished. To think that you would stand on these fabrications and look down upon my daughter, judge her worthiness based on a lie. Erica is worth 1,000 of your false titles. She is real, something you've long forgotten how to be. The guests were now openly murmuring, their looks of fascination turning to disdain as they gazed at the Hargroves. Mr. Hargrove tried to speak, his accent slipping into something less refined, more desperate. We did what we thought was best. For whom? My mom cut him off, her voice fierce. For your son? For society? Or just for your own shallow pride? The confrontation had drawn everyone's attention, and now the room was buzzing, the atmosphere charged with tension and revelations. The Hargroves seemed to shrink, their grandeur dissolving into the air, leaving nothing but the stark, plain truth of their origins. Jake's face twisted with a mix of shock and anger. He stormed up to me, his voice barely a hiss as he leaned close. You've ruined everything, Erica. You've disgraced my family, and now you're questioning if I want to marry you? After this spectacle? His words stung, but before I could respond, he grabbed my arm, pulling me slightly closer. I'll teach you how to be a good wife, one who knows her place and obeys. His threat hung in the air, heavy and chilling. I pulled my arm back with all my might, stepping away from him. The room was dead silent now, everyone's eyes on us. This was the man I had intended to marry? This was the family I was about to join? No, this couldn't be my life. I took a deep breath, my mother's earlier strength flowing through me. There will be no wedding, I announced loudly, making sure every guest heard. I regret that I ever considered marrying such a moron, someone who truly matches the arrogance and deceit of his parents. Murmurs filled the room, some of shock, others of support. Jake stood there, mouth agape, as if trying to catch the words and stuff them back into my mouth. My mother came to my side, her presence a comforting shield against the chaos. Together, we walked through the crowd, our heads held high. In the weeks that followed, news of the Hargroves' disgrace spread through the city. Their fabricated lineage and high society standing crumbled like a house of cards in a breeze. People who once revered them now crossed the street to avoid their shame. They sold their mansion and moved away, seeking a fresh start where their past wouldn't haunt them. As for Jake, I heard bits and pieces, rumors of a downward spiral, of nights spent at bars trying to drink away the scandal. I didn't know if they were true, and frankly, I didn't care to know. He had shown his true colors, and they were too dark and twisted for me ever to want to look back. "Thank you, Mom," I said to her one evening as we sat in our modest living room, a stark contrast to the opulent falsity I had almost married into. "For everything. For being there, for standing up for me, for helping me see the truth before it was too late." She took my hand, squeezing it gently. "I'll always be here, Erica. You're my daughter, and I raised you to be strong and true. No man, no family, can ever make you less than what you are." We sat there, the TV chattering in the background, a normalcy that felt refreshing. I had lost a fiancé, but gained back my life, my self-respect, and, more importantly, my future. After the whole wedding debacle, going back to work felt like walking into a sanctuary. My colleagues, who had heard about the chaos, were nothing short of supportive. "Erica, you dodged a bullet, girl," Marco said as soon as I walked into the office. He was leaning against my desk, a steaming cup of coffee in his hand, which he handed to me as a peace offering, or maybe a welcome-back gift. "Thanks, Marco. Feels good to be back," I replied, taking the coffee and savoring the familiar bitter warmth. "And yeah, that bullet was more like a cannonball." Jenny chimed in from her cubicle across the way. "Anyone who makes you serve guests at your own wedding is no husband material. You deserve way better, hun." I smiled, grateful for the camaraderie. "I think so too. It's nice to be back where I'm appreciated for what I do, not for the family I might have married into." As the days turned into weeks, the support from my team didn't waver. It was during this healing time that I met Brian. He was a friend of a friend, nothing fancy about his background, just a genuine guy with a quick smile and an easygoing attitude that was infectious. We met at a small get-together. It was low-key, just a few friends hanging out on a Saturday afternoon. He was there, laughing at something silly when I walked in. "Hey, you must be Erica," he said, standing up to greet me. "I've heard a lot about you." "All good things, I promise." "Thanks, Brian. I hope they didn't embellish too much," I replied, trying to match his easy demeanor. We hit it off instantly. His family was the polar opposite of the Hargroves. The first time I met his parents, they welcomed me with warm hugs and genuine smiles. "Erica, we're just glad Brian found someone who makes him so happy," his mom said, pulling me into a hug as soon as I stepped through their front door. It was refreshing, the simplicity of it all. No pretenses, no demands. Just mutual respect and acceptance. Brian and I weren't rushing anything. We were taking our time, getting to know each other beyond the surface level. Back at work, my boss called me into his office one day. "Erica, I just want to say, we've all noticed how you've handled everything. It's not been easy, but you've managed to keep your performance top-notch. I nodded, unsure where this was leading. We think it's time for another promotion. You've proven you can handle just about anything, and your leadership has never wavered. Leaving his office, I felt a surge of pride. With a new relationship developing, a career on the rise, and the respect of those I cared about, I was finally in a place where I felt I belonged.
Life has a funny way of mixing the sweet with the bitter. That's how I describe my current life situation. I'm Emma, 27 years old, newly married to Jack, the kind of man who makes every day brighter. We live in a small house, a charming place really, left to me by my grandfather. It's our little haven, filled with love and the dreams of a future family. Jack and I, we're saving up, hoping to buy a bigger house someday. But for now, this place is our world. It's quaint, filled with memories of my childhood, and now of our life together. Then there's Jack's family. His parents, Mike and Susan, are decent folks. Mike's a bit stern, the kind who believes in hard work and responsibility. Susan, she's a sweetheart, always trying to smooth things over whenever there's a disagreement. But the real challenge in the family dynamic? That'd be Lily, Jack's younger sister. She's 24, living a life starkly different from ours. She doesn't work, spending her days hanging out with friends and living life at her own pace. Family dinners are often an interesting affair. Like this one Sunday, we were all gathered around the table at our house. Mike was in his usual form, lecturing Lily about getting a job. "Lily, you're 24. It's high time you started thinking about your future," Mike said sternly, barely looking up from his plate. Lily just scoffed. "Oh, come on, Dad. I'm doing just fine. Why rush life?" It was the usual script. Susan, ever the mediator, jumped in to defend her. "Mike, leave her be. She's still figuring things out." Mike's disapproval was palpable, but he let the topic drop. This was a recurring theme. Mike trying to push Lily towards independence, and Susan cushioning her fall every time. It's a tightrope walk in their household. Lily's relationship with work, or the lack thereof, wasn't just a topic at the dinner table. It was a family concern. And yet, there was this unsaid rule, not to push too hard, not to upset the delicate balance. Jack and I, we try to stay out of it. We've got our own plans, our own future to build. But sometimes, family issues have a way of spilling over, don't they? After that Sunday dinner, things started to change, slowly at first, then all at once. Lily began dropping by our house more often. Initially, it was just the odd visit here and there. But soon, it became a regular thing. Almost every other day, she'd show up, sometimes even when Jack and I weren't home. I remember one afternoon, I was in the middle of baking when I heard the front door open. In walked Lily, as if she owned the place. "Hey, Emma," she greeted cheerfully, sauntering into the kitchen. "Smells good in here. What are you making?" I forced a smile. "Just some banana bread, for dessert tonight." Lily didn't seem to get the hint. She plopped down at the kitchen table, watching me. "Cool. I'll stick around for a bit if that's okay?" It wasn't, not really. But what was I supposed to say? "Sure, Lily. Make yourself at home." The visits became more intrusive. Lily would help herself to food in the fridge, lounge on the sofa for hours, sometimes even borrow my clothes without asking. I tried to brush it off, told myself she was just being friendly in her own way. But one day, I reached my limit. I walked into the living room to find Lily sprawled on the couch, flipping through a photo album, one of our wedding albums. "Lily!" I couldn't hide my irritation. "That's private. Can't you ask before going through our things?" She looked up, seemingly unfazed. "Oh, relax, Emma. We're practically sisters. What's mine is yours, and what's yours is mine, right?" I sighed, trying to keep my composure. "That's not really how it works, Lily. There should be some boundaries, you know?" She just shrugged and went back to the album. I felt this wave of frustration, but I swallowed it down. No use arguing. Jack noticed the tension, too. One evening, after Lily had left, he found me sitting on the couch, lost in thought. "What's up, Em?" he asked, sitting down beside me. I looked at him, the words spilling out. "It's Lily. She's here all the time, going through our stuff. It's like we don't have any privacy anymore." Jack frowned. I know, I've noticed. I'll talk to her, okay? She probably doesn't realize she's overstepping. I nodded, though I wasn't sure talking would help. Lily had this way of just brushing off any criticism, laughing it away like it was nothing. True to his word, Jack spoke to Lily a few days later. I wasn't there for the conversation, but he told me about it afterward. He said he'd been gentle but firm, explaining that while she was always welcome, she needed to respect our space and privacy. She took it well, Jack assured me. Said she didn't realize she was being a bother. She'll back off. I wanted to believe him, but there was a part of me that doubted things would change. And, as it turned out, I was right. The visits continued, and with them, the tension grew. It was like walking on eggshells in my own home, never knowing when Lily would pop up next. The situation with Lily escalated quicker than I expected. It was a Tuesday afternoon, one of those rare days when I had the house to myself. Or so I thought. I was upstairs, tidying up the guest room, when I heard a noise from our bedroom. My first thought was Jack had come home early, but a peek down the hall confirmed my worst suspicion. It was Lily. There she was, in our bedroom, rummaging through my dresser. My heart pounded with a mix of anger and disbelief as I watched her casually pull out my clothes, examining them as if she was in a store. "Lily, what the heck are you doing?" My voice was louder than I intended, echoing off the walls. She jumped, clearly not expecting to get caught. "Oh, Emma, it's just you. I was looking for something to wear tonight. You won't mind, right?" Mind? Of course, I minded. "Lily, this is not okay. You can't just go through my things like this. It's invasive and disrespectful." She rolled her eyes, a move that infuriated me further. "Calm down, Emma. It's not a big deal. I just wanted to borrow a dress." I felt my patience snap. "It is a big deal, Lily. This is my home, my privacy. You can't just barge in and take whatever you like." Her attitude was dismissive, almost mocking. "Geez, Emma, you're acting like I'm a thief or something. I'm just borrowing." I was about to respond when my phone rang. It was Jack. Taking a deep breath to calm my nerves, I answered, trying to sound normal. "Hey, Jack, what's up?" "Hey, Em, just checking in. How's your day going?" I glanced at Lily, who was still standing there, a defiant look on her face. "Not great, actually. We need to talk when you get home." After hanging up, I turned back to Lily. "You need to leave now, and don't take anything with you." She huffed, dropping the dress back into the drawer. "Fine, whatever. You're making a big deal out of nothing." As she stomped out of the room, I felt a mix of relief and frustration. This was more than just borrowing a dress. It was a total disregard for boundaries, and I knew it couldn't go on. That evening, when Jack came home, we had a long talk. I told him everything, not just about today, but about how Lily's behavior had been affecting me for weeks. Jack looked troubled. "I'm sorry, Em. I thought talking to her would help. I didn't realize how bad it was." "We need to do something, Jack. It's not just about the clothes or the food. It's about respect and privacy. She's crossing the line, and it's not fair to us." Jack nodded, his expression serious. "I'll talk to her again. I'll make it clear that she can't do this. If she doesn't listen, we'll have to limit her visits." Despite Jack's efforts to set things straight with Lily, our problems were far from over. In fact, they got worse. It started with small things: a missing pair of earrings, a scarf I couldn't find anywhere. At first, I thought I was just being forgetful, but then the evidence became too obvious to ignore. One evening, I was scrolling through social media when I saw a new post from Lily. There she was, grinning at the camera, wearing my missing scarf. My heart sank. It wasn't just forgetfulness. Lily was taking my things. "Jack, come look at this," I called out, holding up my phone when he walked into the room. He leaned over, looking at the screen. "Isn't that your scarf?" "Yes, it is," I said, a bitter taste in my mouth. "She took it, Jack. She's been taking my things." Jack's face hardened. "I'll talk to her. This is crossing the line." The next day, Jack confronted Lily. I wasn't there, but he told me about it later. He said he was direct, showed her the photo, and asked about the scarf. Lily's response was as infuriating as it was predictable. "That scarf? "Oh, I must have grabbed it by mistake. I have one just like it." Jack didn't buy it. "Lily, it's not just the scarf. Emma's noticed other things missing too. This needs to stop." Lily shrugged, all innocence. "I don't know what she's talking about. I haven't taken anything." It was a stalemate. Jack believed me, but Lily was in complete denial. What could we do? We had no proof, just a strong suspicion. The situation put a strain on our home life. I felt violated, unsafe even. My own home didn't feel like a sanctuary anymore. Every time I left a room, I wondered if something else would be missing when I returned. It wasn't long before another incident occurred. This time, it was a pair of sunglasses. I knew I had left them on the kitchen counter, but they were gone the next morning. And, as if on cue, Lily showed up later that day wearing a pair identical to mine. "Nice sunglasses," I commented, unable to keep the edge out of my voice. Lily looked at me, a smirk playing on her lips. "Thanks. Got them a while back. Pretty cool, right?" I didn't respond. What was the point? It was clear she wasn't going to admit to anything. Jack was as frustrated as I was. "I don't know what else we can do, Em. If she won't admit it, how can we stop her?" I didn't have an answer. We were stuck in this cycle of theft and denial, and it was wearing me down. I started hiding my valuables, locking doors I never used to lock. It felt ridiculous, but I didn't know what else to do. The thefts were bad enough, but what happened one Friday night took everything to a whole new level. Jack and I were curled up on the couch, watching a movie, trying to forget our troubles for a while. It was late, maybe around 11 p.m., when we heard a commotion outside. Loud voices, laughter, the sound of a car door slamming. My heart sank as I peeked out the window. There, in our driveway, was Lily, looking tipsy, with a group of her friends. They stumbled towards the door, and before we could react, they barged in. Lily was leading the pack, a drunken grin on her face. "Surprise!" she slurred, as her friends filed in behind her, loud and unruly. Jack stood up, his expression a mix of anger and disbelief. "Lily, what the hell? It's almost midnight!" Lily just giggled, swaying slightly. "Chill, bro. We just wanted to hang out, have some fun." Her friends were already making themselves at home, one of them heading to the fridge, another cranking up the music on their phone. I felt a surge of frustration. "This is not okay, Lily. You can't just show up like this, especially not this late." Lily waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, come on, Emma. Loosen up a bit. We're just having a little fun." Jack's patience snapped. He marched over to the group at the fridge. "No, Lily, you need to leave. Now. This is our home, and you're disrespecting it." One of Lily's friends, a tall guy with a loud laugh, piped up. "Hey man, no need to be a buzzkill. We're just partying a bit." Jack was seething. "I don't care. Get out, or I'm calling the police." The atmosphere shifted from rowdy to tense. Lily looked at Jack, her expression sobering a bit. "You wouldn't call the cops on your own sister, would you?" Jack didn't waver. "Try me. This is the last straw, Lily." There was a moment of standoff, then Lily sighed dramatically. "Fine, we're leaving. You're such a killjoy, Jack." As they filed out, the relief was palpable. Jack locked the door behind them and turned to me, his face a mixture of anger and worry. "I'm sorry, Em. I had no idea she would do something like this." I just nodded, feeling emotionally drained. "It's not your fault, Jack. But this can't go on. She's out of control." The incident at our home was a wake-up call. We knew we couldn't let Lily's behavior slide anymore, but before we could figure out what to do next, something unexpected happened. My dad, a police officer, decided to visit us for a few days. He had always been my rock, and I was grateful for his presence, especially now. He arrived on a Thursday, his old duffel bag in hand, and a reassuring smile on his face. "Hey, Pumpkin," he greeted me, giving me a firm hug. "Thought I'd drop by and spend some time with my favorite daughter." I smiled, feeling a sense of relief wash over me. "I'm your only daughter, Dad, but I'm glad you're here." The only unpleasant moment is Lily, who ran in for a minute, asking to go to the toilet. After a moment's thought, I let her into the house, not wanting to make a scandal in front of Dad. Dad was a man of few words, but his presence alone made me feel safer. He had a way of bringing calm to any storm. That evening, we had a quiet dinner, and I could tell Jack felt more at ease too. The next morning, things took a turn. Dad usually kept his wallet and a few personal items in a small pouch he carried. But when he went to grab his wallet, his brow furrowed in confusion. "That's odd," he muttered, searching through his pouch. "I could have sworn I had my card in here." Jack and I exchanged a look. "What's wrong, Dad?" I asked, a sinking feeling in my stomach. "My bank card, it's missing." He sounded more puzzled than worried. We immediately called the bank and blocked the card. Just then, my phone rang. It was Lily. Her voice was loud and slurred, the sound of music and chatter in the background. "Emma, why the hell did you block the card? I can't withdraw any money." My heart stopped. "What are you talking about, Lily?" "The card, Emma. The one I took from your room. I was using it to buy drinks, and now it's blocked." I felt a mix of anger and shock. "Lily, that wasn't my card. It was my dad's. He's a police officer, for God's sake." There was a pause, and then a nervous laugh from Lily. "You're joking, right? That's not funny, Emma." "Dad, she took your card," I said, turning to my father, who was now listening intently. He took the phone from me. "Lily, this is Officer Williams. You need to return my card immediately, or there will be consequences." There was a moment of silence. Then the line went dead. Dad looked at us, his expression grave. "I'll have to report this. It's a serious matter." Jack put his hand on my shoulder. "I'm so sorry, Dad. We had no idea she would do something like this." Dad just nodded, his face stern. "I'll handle it from here. Don't worry." The reality of the situation hit me hard. Lily had stolen a police officer's card. This was no longer just a family issue. It was a legal one. I felt a mix of emotions: anger, disbelief, worry. What would happen to Lily now? This was a mess that she had created, and now we were all caught in it. The situation escalated quickly after Lily hung up the phone. Dad immediately got in touch with his colleagues at the station to report the stolen card. He was calm and professional, but I could tell he was upset. "I never thought I'd be filing a report against my own daughter-in-law's sister," he said, shaking his head. "But we need to follow procedure." Jack and I sat in the living room, feeling a mix of anxiety and disbelief. It wasn't long before we heard a knock on the door. It was 2 police officers, Dad's colleagues, who had come to take a statement. As they were wrapping up, another call came in. It was Susan, Jack's mom, her voice frantic. "Emma, what's this I hear about Lily and a stolen card? Tell me it's not true." Jack took the phone, his voice strained. "Mom, it's true. Lily took Dad's bank card and used it. The police are involved now." Susan sounded on the verge of tears. "But she's family. Can't you just let it go? She made a mistake." Jack replied firmly. "Mom, it's out of our hands. Dad's a police officer. This is serious." The situation reached its peak later that evening at the police station. Jack, Susan, Mike, Dad, and I were all there. Lily was in one of the interview rooms, looking small and scared. Mike was the first to break the silence. "I can't believe she would do something like this. We've tried to raise her right." Susan was defensive. "She's just a child. She didn't mean any harm." Dad spoke up, his tone even but firm. "Stealing is serious, especially from a law enforcement officer. It's not just a family matter anymore." We were all waiting when Lily came out, accompanied by an officer. Her usual bravado was gone. She looked at us, her eyes welling up with tears. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't think it would be a big deal." Dad stepped forward. "Lily, you need to understand the gravity of what you've done. This isn't just a simple mistake." Susan rushed to Lily, hugging her. "It's okay, baby. We'll sort this out." But Mike had had enough. "No, Susan. This is where we draw the line. She needs to learn." The officer cleared his throat. "We can proceed with charges, or if the cardholder wishes, he can decide not to press charges this time." Dad looked at me and Jack, then at Lily. "I won't press charges, but this is your last chance, Lily. Any more trouble, and it's out of my hands." Lily nodded, sniffling. "I promise. No more trouble." The incident with the stolen card wasn't just a passing storm in our lives. It left lasting changes in its wake. After Dad discovered the amount Lily had spent with his card, Mike, Jack's father, had no choice but to cover the expenses. It was a hefty sum, and the tension it caused within the family was palpable. We gathered at Mike and Susan's house for what was supposed to be a regular family dinner, but the atmosphere was anything but normal. Mike sat at the head of the table, his expression stern and resolute. "Lily, I've paid back the money you took from Emma's father," Mike began, his voice heavy with disappointment. "But I want you to understand, this doesn't end here. You need to find a job and pay me back every penny." Lily, who had been quiet until then, suddenly erupted. "Pay you back? That's ridiculous. I can't believe you're doing this to me." Mike was unyielding. "It's time you learned to take responsibility for your actions. I'm not giving you any more money." The declaration seemed to push Lily over the edge. She stood up, knocking her chair back. "Fine! If that's how you want it, I'm leaving. I don't need any of you." The room fell silent as Lily stormed out. Susan, tears streaming down her face, stood up to follow her daughter. "How could you, Mike? She's our daughter." Mike's response was firm, yet tinged with sadness. "She needs to learn, Susan. We can't keep shielding her from the consequences of her actions." With a final sob, Susan left the room, leaving a heavy silence behind. In the months that followed, the family dynamic shifted dramatically. Susan and Lily moved out, renting a small apartment. Mike, though heartbroken, stood by his decision, believing it was for the best. Jack and I watched from the sidelines, hoping that Lily would come to her senses. However, occasional glances at her social media profiles told a different story. Pictures of nights out, new clothes, and the same carefree attitude. It seemed Lily hadn't learned much from the ordeal. As for Jack and me, the whole experience brought us closer. We learned the importance of setting boundaries and the value of standing up for what's right, even when it's tough. Our home became our sanctuary once again, a place of peace and respect. Looking back, I realized that every family faces its trials. Ours was a difficult one, filled with tough love and hard decisions. But through it all, we learned valuable lessons about responsibility, respect, and the sometimes painful process of growing up. Our story begins in the cozy, yet often tense living room of Jake's parents' house. I'm Emma, a 30-year-old happily married to Jake, the love of my life, for 6 wonderful years. But as in many families, not everything is perfect. One Sunday afternoon, we were all gathered for lunch at Jake's parents' house. The room was filled with the usual chatter, the clinking of cutlery against plates, and the faint hum of the television in the background. Jake's parents, Martha and Henry, sat at the head of the table, while Jake and I sat opposite his brother Matt and his wife Sophie. Martha, Jake's mother, always had a way of making me feel a bit out of place. "Emma, dear, why don't you help me in the kitchen?" she would often say, even when there was little to help with. It was one of those small things that seemed innocent, but always made me feel like an outsider. On this particular day, the air was thick with Martha's praise for Sophie. "Sophie, this salad you've brought is just delightful. You must give me the recipe," Martha gushed, her voice filled with admiration. Sophie, ever the charmer, responded with a smile. "Oh, it's nothing, Martha. Just a little something I whipped up. I'm glad you like it." I tried to join in the conversation, offering, "I've also tried a new recipe for the dessert today. I hope everyone likes it." Martha glanced at me briefly, then turned her attention back to Sophie. "Sophie, you really have a knack for cooking. I remember that casserole you made last time. Simply delicious." Feeling a bit sidelined, I exchanged a look with Jake, who gave me a small, reassuring smile. He always understood these moments without needing words. The lunch continued, with Martha sharing stories about Sophie's recent accomplishments and barely acknowledging my presence. It was a familiar scene, one where I felt like I was on the outside looking in, no matter how hard I tried to be part of the family. As we cleared the table after the meal, Jake whispered to me, "Don't let it get to you. You know I appreciate everything you do." I nodded, trying to brush off the feeling of being undervalued. It was just another Sunday at Jake's family home, where praise was abundant for Sophie, and for me, it remained just out of reach. It was a typical Thursday evening at Martha's house, with family dinner in full swing. The atmosphere was lively, filled with the sounds of casual conversation and laughter. At the table, I sat quietly, observing Sophie as she skillfully navigated the conversation. Sophie, with her perfect hair and bright smile, turned to Martha and said, "Martha, you really outdid yourself with the dinner tonight. Everything tastes amazing." Martha, visibly pleased, replied, "Thank you, Sophie. It's always a pleasure to cook for you all." I chimed in, trying to be part of the conversation. "Yes, Martha, the chicken is really tender. What's your secret?" Martha gave a brief nod in my direction, but her attention quickly returned to Sophie. "Oh, it's just a little trick I learned over the years. You know, Sophie has been showing quite an interest in cooking lately. She's getting quite good at it." Sophie beamed at the compliment. "I've been trying, but I'm nowhere near as good as you, Martha. Maybe one day I'll get there." The conversation continued in this manner, with Sophie and Martha exchanging pleasantries and compliments. I couldn't help but feel a bit of frustration at how easily Sophie seemed to win Martha over. It was as if Sophie wore a mask of charm that endeared her to Martha, despite the occasional unkind word Sophie would let slip about Martha when she wasn't around. Later, I heard Sophie's voice talking to someone on the phone in the living room. "Oh, Martha is such a stupid chicken, always shaking over her pots. It's so funny." I was taken aback by the contrast in Sophie's attitude. In front of Martha, she was all praises, but behind her back, it was completely different. Trying to keep the conversation light, I said to Martha, "You really do put a lot of effort into these dinners. We all appreciate it." Martha smiled, but her thoughts were still with Sophie. "Thank you, Emma. But Sophie, she really understands the effort that goes into this. She appreciates it in her own way." I nodded, keeping my thoughts to myself. It was clear that Sophie's praise held more weight in Martha's eyes, and I couldn't help but wonder if Martha would ever see through the facade that Sophie so skillfully maintained. The next day, I found myself in a coffee shop with Sophie, hoping to have a frank conversation. The cafe was buzzing with the chatter of other customers and the aroma of fresh coffee. I sipped my latte, gathering my thoughts. "Sophie, can I talk to you about something?" I started, trying to sound as non-confrontational as possible. Sophie looked up from her coffee, a hint of curiosity in her eyes. "Sure, Emma. What's up?" I took a deep breath. "It's about Martha. I feel like there's a lot of, well, let's say, unnecessary praise going on. I think it's important to be genuine with her." Sophie raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "I am genuine with her. I compliment her because she deserves it." I pressed on. "I know, but I've also heard you say things that don't match what you tell her. It doesn't seem fair to her." Sophie's expression hardened slightly. "Emma, I'm not sure what you've heard, but I think you're misunderstanding things. I have a lot of respect for Martha." The conversation felt like it was hitting a wall. I decided to be more direct. "Sophie, I've heard you make fun of Martha when she's not around. It just doesn't seem right." Sophie's face turned into a polite smile, but her eyes were cold. "Emma, I think you're reading too much into things. I would never disrespect Martha." Feeling a bit deflated, I decided not to push further. "Okay, Sophie, I just wanted to share what I felt. Maybe I'm wrong." Sophie quickly changed the subject, and we spent the rest of our coffee time chatting about mundane things. But the unease lingered in my mind. I had hoped to make Sophie see the contradiction in her behavior, but it was clear that she wasn't going to acknowledge it. As we left the cafe, Sophie said in a light tone, "Thanks for the coffee and the chat, Emma. Let's do this again soon." I nodded. "Sure, Sophie." Walking away, I couldn't help but feel a sense of disappointment. I had wanted to clear the air, but it seemed that Sophie was content with wearing her mask, and there was little I could do to change that. In the bustling heart of our small town, I met my friend Lisa at a quaint diner known for its home-style comfort food. The chatter of patrons and the clinking of cutlery filled the air, providing a familiar backdrop to our conversation. Lisa had an air of unease about her as we settled into our booth, her usually bright eyes clouded with concern. As we ordered our food, Lisa hesitated, her words carefully chosen. "Emma, there's something I need to tell you, and I'm not sure how to say it. It's about Sophie." My heart sank a little. Anything about Sophie usually meant trouble. "What's going on, Lisa?" I asked, bracing myself. She sighed, looking down at her hands before meeting my eyes. I was at the gym yesterday, and I overheard Sophie talking with some friends. She was speaking about you, Emma, and it wasn't pleasant. A knot formed in my stomach. What did she say? I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to hear the answer. Lisa fidgeted with her napkin. She called you some awful names, Emma. Stupid chicken. Fat fool. It was really mean-spirited. I'm so sorry. The words stung more than I expected. It wasn't just the names. It was the betrayal of trust, the duplicity of someone I had to see at family gatherings, someone who pretended to be amiable to my face. I can't believe she'd say such things, I replied, my voice a mix of shock and hurt. After all the times I've tried to be nice to her. Lisa reached across the table, her hand a comforting presence. I know you have, Emma, and that's why I thought you should know the truth. The conversation shifted as we tried to steer away from the unpleasant topic. But my mind was elsewhere, replaying every interaction with Sophie, seeing them now in a different light. The lunch passed in a blur, and before I knew it, we were saying our goodbyes. As I drove home, Sophie's words echoed in my mind. I felt a mix of emotions, anger at her deceit, hurt by her words, and confusion over why she would target me. But there was also a growing sense of clarity. Sophie's mask had slipped, and I could see her for who she truly was. In the following days, I found myself replaying the conversation with Lisa over and over in my head. Each time, a new wave of emotions washed over me. I confided in Jake, who was equally shocked and upset. He offered his support, suggesting we confront Sophie together. But I wasn't ready for that yet. I needed time to process and plan my next steps. I also started to notice the small, subtle ways Sophie manipulated conversations at family gatherings, how she skillfully turned the attention to herself, and how she would throw a sly glance my way when she thought no one was looking. It was as if she enjoyed having this secret, this power over me. But with each passing day, my resolve strengthened. I would not let Sophie's words define me. I would stand up for myself, but in my own way and in my own time. The realization that I had the strength to face this, to not let Sophie's pettiness affect me, was empowering. And so, with a newfound determination, I began to plan how I would address the situation. I didn't want a confrontation. I wanted resolution. I wanted to show Sophie that her words had no power over me, that I was stronger than her petty insults. It was time for me to take control of the narrative and turn a bitter discovery into a moment of personal growth. Thanksgiving was approaching, and this year, Sophie and Matt were hosting the family dinner. A few days before the event, Sophie called me. I could hear the faint sound of children playing in the background on her end. Hey, Emma, I was wondering if you could help me out with Thanksgiving dinner? I'm a bit overwhelmed with the planning, Sophie said, her voice laced with a hint of stress. Despite the mixed feelings I had about her, I agreed. Sure, Sophie. What do you need help with? Could you handle the turkey and maybe a dessert? That would be a huge help, she replied, sounding relieved. All right, I can do that. I'll make my pumpkin pie too. Everyone seems to like it, I offered, trying to keep the conversation light. Perfect. Thank you so much, Emma. You're a lifesaver, Sophie said cheerfully. On Thanksgiving Day, I arrived at Sophie's house early, armed with my prepped turkey and ingredients for the pumpkin pie. The house was already buzzing with the sounds of preparation. Sophie greeted me with a smile, ushering me into the kitchen. As I started to get busy with the cooking, Sophie flitted around, occasionally checking in but mostly leaving me to it. I poured my efforts into making sure everything was perfect. The turkey seasoned just right, the pie with its flaky crust. Guests began to arrive, and soon the house was filled with the noise of family catching up, the sound of children running around, and the ever-present hum of the football game on TV. Dinner was served, and everyone gathered around the table. The turkey was a hit, and the pumpkin pie was met with compliments. I noticed Martha praising Sophie. This turkey is wonderful, Sophie. You've outdone yourself. Sophie basked in the praise, a triumphant smile on her face. Thank you, Martha. I'm glad you like it. I kept my emotions in check, smiling politely while a plan formed in my mind. I knew I needed to act, but in a way that was subtle yet revealing. As we were enjoying our dessert, I saw my opportunity. "Sophie, this pumpkin pie is delicious. Can you share the recipe? I'd love to try making it myself." Sophie's face faltered for a moment, a flash of panic in her eyes. "Oh, it's just a standard recipe. Nothing special," she stammered. I pushed a little further, keeping my tone friendly. "But it tastes different from the usual. There must be a secret ingredient or something." Sophie stumbled over her words, trying to come up with a response. The room grew quiet, with family members now curious about the recipe. The discomfort was evident on Sophie's face as she struggled to respond. It was clear to everyone that she didn't have an answer. I let the moment hang for a bit before moving the conversation along, but the seed of doubt was planted. Sophie's facade had cracked, and I could tell that the family was starting to see what I had seen all along. As the Thanksgiving dinner progressed, the atmosphere was still charged from the earlier incident with the pumpkin pie. Sensing an opportunity to reveal more of Sophie's deceit, I decided to push the envelope further. While we were all relaxing in the living room, digesting the feast, I turned to Sophie with an innocent expression. "Sophie, the turkey was so good, especially the gravy. Could you share the recipe for the sauce? I'd love to try it myself." Sophie's face went pale, a clear sign of her discomfort. The sauce. Well, it's just a standard recipe, you know? The usual ingredients," she stammered, avoiding eye contact. Others in the room perked up, clearly intrigued. "Oh, but it tasted unique," said Aunt Mary, joining in. "What did you put in it, Sophie?" Sophie fidgeted, looking desperately for an out. "Well, you know, the usual, herbs and stuff." The guests exchanged knowing glances, the air filling with a mix of curiosity and skepticism. It was becoming evident to everyone that Sophie wasn't familiar with the recipe. Jake's brother Matt, noticing his wife's discomfort, stepped in. "Let's not bother Sophie with recipes right now. We're here to enjoy the holiday," he said, trying to deflect the situation. But the damage was done. The guests, one after another, playfully yet pointedly asked Sophie about the sauce, each question adding to her embarrassment. It was clear they were enjoying this unmasking of the cunning and hypocritical daughter-in-law. Sophie, now red-faced and visibly flustered, muttered a few more incoherent responses before excusing herself from the room. Matt followed her, casting a disapproving glance at the rest of us. The tension in the room was palpable after Sophie's abrupt exit, followed closely by Martha, who was clearly going to comfort her. The rest of us sat in a tense silence, waiting for their return. When Martha came back, she was visibly upset, her usually composed demeanor replaced by a fiery anger. Without hesitation, she directed her fury at me. "Emma, what you've done is disgraceful. You've embarrassed Sophie in front of the whole family." I was caught off guard by her intensity. Jake immediately stood up, ready to come to my defense, but I gently held his hand, signaling him to let me handle it. "Martha, I understand you're upset, but please hear me out," I began, trying to keep my voice calm. Martha cut me off, her words laced with accusation. "You're just jealous of Sophie. You think by embarrassing her, you can prove you're the better cook, the smarter one, the more beautiful one. This is petty revenge." I took a deep breath, maintaining my composure. "Martha, that's not it at all. The truth is, I prepared the turkey and the pie. Sophie took credit for them." Martha's face was a mix of disbelief and confusion. "Is that true?" Sophie, who had quietly returned, chimed in, her voice defensive. "No, that's not true. Emma's just trying to make me look bad." The tension escalated as Sophie tried to deflect the blame onto me. It was clear that words alone weren't going to resolve this. Knowing I needed to provide undeniable proof, I said, "I can prove that I made them." Everyone's attention was now focused on me, waiting for the evidence. I pulled out my phone and opened my photo gallery. Here are the pictures I took while preparing the dishes at home. I passed the phone around, showing the step-by-step process of me preparing the turkey and the pie. The pictures clearly showed the ingredients, the preparation, and the final products, all in my kitchen. As the phone made its way around the room, the realization dawned on everyone. Martha's anger slowly turned to embarrassment, and Sophie's defense crumbled under the weight of the evidence. Martha finally spoke, her voice softer. "Emma, I I didn't know. I'm sorry for not believing you." And then Sophie revealed her true face. "You're a lying, envious woman. You're trying to break me up with Marta," she yelled at me. The tension in the room escalated. Sophie's accusations of deceit towards me had reached a boiling point. Sensing the need for undeniable proof, I decided to reveal the last piece of evidence I had reluctantly held back. "Everyone, there's something else you should hear," I said, my voice steady but filled with reluctance. I pulled out my phone again, this time to play a recording. This is a recording of Sophie talking about Martha and other family members. The room fell silent as I pressed play. Sophie's voice filled the air, her words harsh and unkind, speaking rudely about Martha and various relatives. The shock was immediate and palpable, especially on Martha's face, which drained of color. As the recording ended, a heavy silence hung over the room. Sophie sat frozen, her earlier facade completely shattered. Martha, deeply hurt and humiliated, struggled to find words. I had no idea," Martha finally whispered, her voice breaking. "How could you, Sophie?" Sophie, now on the verge of tears, stammered out an apology. "I'm so sorry, Martha. I didn't mean those things. I was just venting." But the damage was done. The family members looked on in shock, their expressions a mix of disbelief and disappointment. The realization of Sophie's hypocrisy hit everyone hard. Martha, shaking her head, said, "I can't believe I was so blind. All this time, you've been deceiving us." The room erupted into a chorus of upset voices as relatives expressed their feelings of betrayal and disappointment. The festive atmosphere of Thanksgiving had been completely replaced by a sense of betrayal and sadness. In the midst of the turmoil, I felt a mix of vindication and sadness. While it was important for the truth to come out, the damage it caused to the family dynamics was undeniable. As the evening came to a close, the family left in a somber mood. Martha, still in shock, quietly thanked me for bringing the truth to light, though it was clear she was deeply hurt. Sophie and Matt left quickly, the air between them tense. The fallout of the revelation was just beginning, and it was evident that the family would need time to heal from this. Jake and I left in a reflective mood, the events of the evening weighing heavily on our minds. As we drove home, I couldn't help but feel that, despite the painful unmasking, this was a necessary step towards healing and rebuilding trust within the family. The truth, however painful, was out in the open, paving the way for a more honest future. It's hard to believe how fast time flies. Just a few years ago, I was a college student, juggling exams and part-time jobs. And now, here I am, Laura Carter, 25 years old, about to marry the love of my life, Michael Richardson. Michael, with his kind eyes and easy smile, is someone I still can't believe I'm lucky enough to be with. He's from a well-off family, a fact that never really mattered to me, but it does mean our wedding is going to be something out of a fairy tale. Well, his mother's version of a fairy tale, anyway. I was in our soon-to-be shared apartment, flipping through a wedding magazine when Michael walked in. "Hey, Laura, you won't believe the florist's latest idea for the centerpieces," he said, his voice filled with a mix of amusement and mild disbelief. I looked up and laughed. "Let me guess, something extravagant and probably totally impractical?" Michael flopped down next to me, nodding. "You got it. But hey, if it makes my mom happy?" That was Michael, always trying to keep the peace, especially when it came to his family. I admired that about him. Speaking of his family, there was a part I was nervous about. His sister, Sarah, who I hadn't met yet, was coming to the wedding with her new husband. Michael's mom, Mrs. Richardson, had let slip a bit of juicy gossip about Sarah in one of our wedding planning sessions. Sarah, who was in her mid-30s, had recently divorced her first husband and remarried a guy who was my age, only 25. That little tidbit had certainly raised my eyebrows. The doorbell rang, snapping me out of my thoughts. Michael got up to answer it. "That must be the delivery I was waiting for," he said. As I was flipping through another page of the magazine, Michael came back, holding a small package. "It's from my sister," he said, handing it to me. "She sent a little something for the wedding." I opened the package to find a beautiful silver bracelet with a note attached. "To Laura, looking forward to finally meeting you. Love, Sarah. That's really sweet of her, I said, genuinely touched. Yeah, Sarah can be really thoughtful, Michael replied, with a hint of something in his voice that I couldn't quite place. You'll like her, I'm sure. The days leading up to the wedding were a blur of last-minute preparations and family arrivals. Michael's family mansion, where the wedding was to be held, was bustling with activity. Amidst all this, I tried to keep my cool, focusing on the joy of marrying Michael rather than the stress of the event. It was 2 days before the wedding when Sarah and her husband were scheduled to arrive. I felt a mix of excitement and nerves at the thought of finally meeting them. Michael had told me bits and pieces about his sister, but I had no idea what to expect from her husband. The sound of a car pulling up the driveway announced their arrival. Michael and I went out to greet them. Sarah stepped out of the car first, a tall woman with a confident air about her. She greeted us with warm hugs. Laura, it's so wonderful to finally meet you, Sarah exclaimed, her smile genuine. I've heard so much about you. It's great to meet you too, Sarah, I replied, feeling a little relieved at her friendliness. Then he got out of the car. My heart stopped for a second. It was Jack. Jack Thompson, the guy from college who made my life a nightmare. But how? How could he be here, married to Michael's sister? I must have gone pale because Michael looked at me with concern. Laura, are you okay? I forced a smile, not wanting to make a scene. Yeah, just a bit overwhelmed with everything. Jack hadn't noticed me yet. He was busy getting their bags from the car, but then he looked up and our eyes met. There was a flicker of recognition in his eyes, quickly masked by a polite smile. Laura, this is Jack, my husband, Sarah introduced us, oblivious to the silent exchange between us. I managed a weak smile, extending my hand for a handshake. Nice to meet you, Jack. Jack's grip was firm, his eyes studying me. Likewise, Laura. The rest of the introduction was a blur. I excused myself quickly, mumbling something about needing to check on the caterers. Once out of sight, I leaned against the wall, my mind racing. How could Jack be here, in my life again, and as part of my soon-to-be family? I needed to talk to someone, but who? Michael? No, I couldn't burden him with this just days before our wedding. My dad? Maybe, but he was already dealing with so much as the police chief. Lost in thought, I didn't notice Michael had followed me. Laura, seriously, what's wrong? You've been off since Sarah and Jack arrived. I looked up at him, torn between telling him the truth and keeping it all inside. It's just wedding nerves, you know? Everything's happening so fast. Michael studied me for a moment, then pulled me into a hug. Whatever it is, we'll get through it together. You know that, right? I nodded, resting my head on his shoulder. I know. But inside, I knew this was just the beginning. The past I thought I had left behind was now standing right in front of me, threatening the future I had so carefully built. Lying awake in bed, the memories of college came flooding back. It was a time shadowed by Jack's relentless pursuit. He was everywhere, in the library, the cafeteria, even waiting outside my classes. His initial infatuation, masked as sweet gestures and love notes, soon turned sour when I made it clear I wasn't interested. I still remember the day he crossed all boundaries, the day he tried to force his way into my dorm room. That was the day I realized this wasn't just some college crush gone wrong. It was something far more sinister. The fear from that day hadn't left me, even after all these years. Feeling restless, I slipped out of bed and walked to the living room, my thoughts a turbulent sea. The clock on the wall ticked away the early hours of the morning as I dialed my dad's number. He answered on the second ring, his voice groggy with sleep. Dad, it's me. I need to tell you something, I said, my voice shaking slightly. Laura? What's wrong, honey? Concern laced his words. Dad, Jack Thompson is here. He's married to Michael's sister. He's the same guy from college, the one who stalked me. There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end. Laura, are you okay? Did he try anything? No, nothing like that. But just seeing him again, it's brought it all back, Dad. Laura, you need to tell Michael about this, and his family too. They should know what kind of man Jack really is. I bit my lip, considering his words. It made sense, but the thought of dredging up the past, especially now, filled me with dread. Dad, I don't know if I can. What if it ruins everything? The wedding is tomorrow. Laura, I understand you're worried, but this is important. You can't just pretend everything is okay. I sighed, a knot forming in my stomach. I know, Dad. I need some time to think about how to handle this. Okay, sweetheart. But remember, I'm here for you, no matter what. Thanks, Dad. I love you. Love you too, Laura. Be safe. I hung up the phone and sat there in the dark, the weight of the decision heavy on my shoulders. I knew what my dad said made sense, but the idea of bringing up my past, potentially disrupting the delicate balance of our soon-to-be family, was overwhelming. As dawn broke, bringing light to a new day, I made a decision. I would keep this to myself, at least for now. The wedding was too important to Michael and his family. I couldn't let my past with Jack ruin it. I would deal with it after the wedding somehow. But for now, the secret would stay with me. The day before the wedding was hectic, filled with the final preparations and a sense of looming anticipation. I tried to keep busy, focusing on the details of the ceremony, but my mind kept drifting back to Jack and the unresolved past he represented. As I was checking the seating arrangements in the main hall, Jack walked up to me, a smirk playing on his lips. The sight of him so close sent a jolt of anxiety through me. Laura, you look like you could use some help, he said, his voice laced with a mock concern. I took a deep breath, trying to maintain my composure. I'm managing just fine, thanks. He leaned in closer, his smirk widening. I can't help but notice you haven't told Michael or his family about our little history. What's the matter? Scared they might see you differently? His words stung, and I felt a surge of anger. That's none of your business, Jack. What happened between us is in the past, and it's going to stay there. Oh, come on, Laura. We both know you're just trying to play the perfect fiancé. But deep down, you're terrified of the truth coming out, he taunted. I glared at him, my patience wearing thin. You approaching me like this, talking to me, it's a violation of the court order. You're not supposed to be anywhere near me. Jack's smirk faltered for a moment, but then he laughed. That old thing? Please, we're practically family now. Besides, no one here knows about that, do they? I took a step back, feeling cornered. I'm serious, Jack. You shouldn't be at this wedding. You need to leave. His laughter grew louder, echoing in the empty hall. You really think you can keep me away? I'm a part of this family now, Laura. And as for the wedding, let's just say I've got a little surprise planned. I felt a chill run down my spine at his words. What do you mean by that? Jack winked at me. You'll see. Tomorrow's going to be a day to remember. The eve of the wedding was a blur of emotions. The house was filled with the laughter and chatter of arriving guests, but my mind was elsewhere, clouded with worries about Jack and his ominous words. As I was helping to set up the reception area, Michael came up to me, his face full of concern. Laura, you've been quiet all day. Is everything okay? I forced a smile, not wanting to burden him with my troubles, especially not now. Just a bit overwhelmed with all the preparations, that's all. Michael wrapped his arm around me. Hey, don't worry. Everything's going to be perfect. You just need to relax and enjoy our day. I nodded, wishing it were that easy to brush away the unease. I know, you're right. I'm just being silly. Later, as I was double-checking the guest list, Sarah approached me. She seemed excited, oblivious to the tension that was eating away at me. Laura, this is going to be such a wonderful day. I'm so happy for you and Michael. Thanks, Sarah. I'm really looking forward to it, I replied, trying to share her enthusiasm. As we were talking, Jack walked past us, giving me a knowing look that sent a shiver down my spine. Sarah noticed my reaction and frowned. Is something wrong, Laura? I shook my head quickly. No, nothing. I just thought I forgot something on the list. Sarah seemed satisfied with my response, but I could tell she was still a bit puzzled. Well, if you need any help, just let me know. After she left, I took a moment to steady my breathing. The thought of facing Jack tomorrow, on what should be the happiest day of my life, filled me with dread. That night, as I lay in bed, the house quiet and still, my thoughts were a whirlwind. I contemplated telling Michael everything about Jack, but the fear of ruining our wedding held me back. I didn't want our special day to be overshadowed by the ghosts of my past. But as I tossed and turned, Jack's threat echoed in my mind. What surprise did he have in store? And how could I protect myself and my future with Michael from whatever Jack had planned? The morning of the wedding dawned bright and beautiful. As I got ready, surrounded by my bridesmaids, there was a buzz of excitement in the air. But beneath my carefully applied makeup and styled hair, anxiety gnawed at me. "Laura, you look stunning!" exclaimed one of my bridesmaids, Lily, as she helped me with my dress. "Thanks, Lily. I just hope everything goes as planned," I replied, trying to sound upbeat. "Everything will be perfect, you'll see," she reassured me, giving my hand a gentle squeeze. As the ceremony time approached, my heart raced. Walking down the aisle, I saw Michael waiting for me, his face lit up with love and happiness. For a moment, all my worries melted away. This was our day, and nothing was going to ruin it. The ceremony was beautiful, filled with heartfelt vows and tender moments. As we were pronounced husband and wife, the room erupted in cheers. But as we turned to face our guests, my eyes involuntarily sought out Jack. He was clapping, but his smile didn't reach his eyes. At the reception, the atmosphere was festive, with guests enjoying the food and music. Michael and I mingled, laughing and thanking everyone for coming. But as I looked around, I noticed that Sarah and Jack were missing. "Have you seen Sarah and Jack?" I asked Michael, trying to sound casual. "No, I haven't. They're probably just taking a break from the crowd," he said, not seeming concerned. But I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was off. Jack's words from yesterday echoed in my mind, and I couldn't help but wonder what he was up to. As the evening progressed, the absence of Sarah and Jack became more noticeable. Michael's mother, Mrs. Richardson, looked worried. "I've been calling Sarah, but she's not answering. It's not like her to miss something like this." "I'm sure they're around somewhere," Michael said, but I could tell he was starting to get worried too. Just then, the doors to the reception hall burst open, and Sarah stormed in, her face red with anger. The room went silent as everyone turned to look at her. "Laura, this is all your fault!" she yelled, pointing a finger at me. I was taken aback, my heart pounding in my chest. "Sarah, what are you talking about?" She was seething. You seduced my husband in college, and now you're trying to ruin my marriage." The accusation hit me like a physical blow. Murmurs and whispers filled the room as guests tried to make sense of what they were hearing. "Sarah, that's not true," I protested, my voice trembling. "Jack was the one who... But I couldn't bring myself to say it out loud. Not here, not in front of everyone. Michael stepped in, his voice firm. "Sarah, you've got it all wrong. Laura didn't do anything. Let's talk about this privately." But Sarah was beyond reason. "No, everyone needs to know what kind of person she really is." As the argument escalated, I felt my world crumbling around me. The secret I had kept so carefully was now out, but twisted into a version that painted me as the villain. I looked at Michael, his face a mix of confusion and concern, and I knew I had to set things right. But before I could speak, another voice cut through the chaos. It was my father, his voice authoritative and calm. "Everyone, please, can I have your attention?" The room quieted down as he stepped forward, his police badge visible on his jacket. "There's been a development outside that I need to inform you about," he said, looking directly at me with a reassuring nod. I braced myself, not knowing what was coming, but trusting my father to handle it. Little did I know, the truth about Jack in the past was about to come out in the most unexpected way. The room fell into a tense silence as my father stood there, his presence commanding attention. Everyone's eyes were on him, waiting for him to speak. "Earlier today, the police apprehended a man outside this venue," he began, his voice steady. "This man was found to be in violation of a restraining order, specifically one that forbids him from being near my daughter, Laura." A collective gasp echoed through the room. Sarah's face went pale, and I could feel Michael's grip on my hand tighten. "The man we apprehended is Jack Thompson, Sarah's husband," my father continued. Sarah looked shocked, her eyes darting between my father and me. "What? But that's impossible. Jack wouldn't—" My father held up his hand to stop her. "I'm afraid it's true, Sarah. Laura was granted a restraining order against Jack in college after he repeatedly stalked and harassed her." I felt the room spin as all eyes turned to me. The secret I had tried so hard to keep hidden was now out in the open, laid bare for everyone to see. "Laura, is this true?" Michael asked, his voice filled with concern. I nodded, tears brimming in my eyes. "Yes, it's true. I didn't want to ruin our wedding. I thought I could handle it." Sarah was in disbelief. "But Jack told me you were the one who pursued him in college. He said you were obsessed with him." "That's a lie," I said firmly. "He was the one who wouldn't leave me alone. I was scared, Sarah. I had to go to the police." Sarah looked at me, then at the spot where her husband had been standing earlier, a look of realization dawning on her face. My father continued, "Jack has been taken into custody for violating the court order. I'm sorry to bring this up on such a happy occasion, but it was necessary." The room was filled with murmurs as people processed the news. Michael's mother came up to me, her eyes full of sympathy. "Laura, I'm so sorry. We had no idea." Michael hugged me tightly. "I wish you had told me, Laura, but I understand why you didn't. I'm here for you no matter what." Sarah approached me, her expression remorseful. "Laura, I'm so sorry. I should have believed you. I was fooled by Jack." The revelation had turned the wedding into a scene of confusion and disbelief. But amidst the chaos, I felt a sense of relief. The truth was out, and I no longer had to carry the burden alone. My past with Jack was finally brought to light, and now I could start to heal and move forward with the man I loved, free from the shadows that had haunted me. The rest of the wedding night felt surreal. After the revelations and the drama, the mood had shifted significantly. Yet, amid the shock and confusion, there was a sense of coming together, as if the truth, however painful, had brought a strange kind of unity. Michael and I sat together, hand in hand, as the guests slowly started to engage in quiet conversations around us. "Laura, I'm so sorry for everything you went through," Michael said softly. "I wish I had known." I squeezed his hand. "It's not your fault, Michael. I should have told you. But I was afraid of how it would affect us." Michael looked into my eyes. "Nothing about this changes how I feel about you. I love you, Laura, and we'll get through this together." His words were a balm to my troubled heart. I leaned into his embrace, feeling a sense of peace for the first time that night. Sarah came over, her eyes red from crying. "Laura, I can't tell you how sorry I am. I was so blind." "It's okay, Sarah," I said, reaching out to touch her arm. "You didn't know." She took a deep breath. "I'm going to file for divorce. I can't be with someone capable of what Jack did. And thank you for being so brave." As the night drew to a close, my dad came over. "Laura, are you okay?" I nodded. "Yes, Dad, thanks to you. You always know how to protect me." He smiled gently. "That's my job, kiddo. Always." The next few days were a whirlwind of emotions and decisions. Sarah filed for divorce, and Jack faced legal proceedings for violating the restraining order. Michael and I went on our honeymoon, a much-needed escape from the chaos. As we walked along a beach, hand in hand, I felt a sense of closure. The ordeal with Jack was finally over, and I could start a new chapter of my life with Michael. "Laura, what are you thinking about?" Michael asked, looking down at me. I smiled up at him. "Just how lucky I am to have you, and how much I'm looking forward to our future together." Michael pulled me closer, kissing my forehead. "Me too, Laura. We have our whole lives ahead of us, and I can't wait to spend every moment with you." As we stood there, watching the sunset, I knew that despite the challenges we had faced, our love had prevailed. The future was bright, filled with new beginnings and endless possibilities. Jack was a part of my past, a dark chapter that had closed, allowing me to step into a future filled with love, hope, and happiness.
In the quiet of my home, surrounded by memories and Mark's possessions, I was trying to find solace. I'm Ava, a 36-year-old widow, who swapped school corridors and children's laughter for the tranquility of private tutoring. My days revolved around music lessons, Mr. Whiskers, and the constant, silent gaze of the cat-shaped video camera, my digital eye on the world that Mark left behind. The doorbell's ring broke the monotony, an unusual interruption in my carefully structured solitude. It was Lily, my younger sister, with her daughter, Emily. Their sudden appearance at my doorstep was as unexpected as a snowstorm in spring. "Hey, Ava. Just thought we'd drop by. How've you been holding up?" Lily's voice had the usual chirpiness, but her eyes, always too keen, were scanning the living room, taking in every detail. I ushered them in, a reluctant host. "I'm managing, Lily. And you?" "I heard about the divorce." Lily shrugged, a carefully casual gesture. "Oh, you know, life happens. But look at you, living in this big house, all this luxury." Her gaze lingered on the items that were once part of Mark's daily life. "It's not luxury, Lily. It's what's left of Mark," I replied, the words heavier than I intended. As the afternoon wore on, Lily's presence, once a mere annoyance, felt increasingly oppressive. Her comments, masked as casual observations, were probing, intrusive. The house, the belongings, my life under her relentless scrutiny. And then, as they prepared to leave, Lily's parting words left me uneasy. "We should do this more often, Ava. Family should stick together, right?" Her words, though seemingly innocent, felt loaded with an unspoken agenda. I nodded, non-committal, already dreading the next unexpected ring of the doorbell. As the door closed behind them, the silence settled back in, a stark reminder of the solitude I both cherished and mourned. I glanced at Mr. Whiskers, snoozing peacefully, oblivious to the complexities of human relationships. "Looks like our quiet was just interrupted, Mr. Whiskers," I whispered, a sense of foreboding slowly creeping in. Little did I know, this was merely the prelude to the storm that was about to engulf my life. Lily's visits were becoming as predictable as they were unwelcome. It was a Tuesday, just past noon, when her knock echoed through the house, a disruptive force against the melody of a piano lesson I was conducting. My student, a shy boy of 10, jolted at the sound. I excused myself and opened the door to find Lily and Emily standing there, Lily with that all-too-familiar look of unsolicited advice ready on her lips. "Ava, darling. You really need to brighten up this place," she declared, her voice piercing the calm ambience of my home. I sighed, feeling the weight of her presence. "Lily, I'm in the middle of a lesson. Can this wait?" She breezed past me, her disregard for my words as evident as her disregard for my personal space. "Nonsense, he won't mind. Besides, I've got some great ideas for you." I followed her into the living room, my concern for my student growing. "Lily, please. This isn't a good time." But she was already surveying the room, her gaze landing on Mark's belongings, his old guitar, the stack of books he loved, the photographs of our travels together. "You know, Ava, you could make a killing selling some of Mark's old stuff. It's just sitting here, collecting dust," she suggested, her tone casual, as if she were discussing the weather. A sharp pain clenched my heart. "Those things are not just stuff, Lily. They're memories. They're not for sale." She shrugged, her insensitivity on full display. "Memories don't pay the bills, Ava. You've got to be practical. And speaking of practical, have you thought about putting yourself out there again? It's high time you moved on." I felt the room spin slightly at her words. "Lily, my personal life is not up for discussion. And I'll thank you to keep your opinions to yourself." Emily, who had been a silent observer until now, interjected, her voice a soothing balm. Mom, maybe we should respect Aunt Ava's feelings. It's her life, after all. Lily shot her a look, then turned back to me. Oh, come on, Ava. You can't bury yourself in the past forever. There's a whole world out there. New people to meet, new experiences to be had. The boy, who had been trying to focus on his sheet music, looked up, his eyes wide with a mix of confusion and curiosity. Miss Ava, is everything okay? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I forced a smile, my heart aching with a mix of anger and sorrow. Yes, everything's fine. Let's get back to your lesson. Music is a great escape, isn't it? As I turned back to the piano, the notes we played together did little to drown out Lily's words that echoed in my head. Her presence, once merely annoying, was now a disruptive storm, uprooting the tranquility I had cultivated in my life after Mark's passing. The lesson ended, and the boy left, his glance back at the door revealing his concern. I sat there, the silence of the room now a void filled with Lily's words and the chaos they brought. Lily's visits had morphed from an annoyance into a full-blown invasion of my space. It was a Wednesday afternoon, and I was in the middle of a violin lesson with one of my most diligent students when a familiar, unwelcome knock came. I opened the door to find Lily and Emily, their presence as disruptive as a thunderclap in a quiet sky. Hi, Lily, Emily. I'm right in the middle of something, I said, hoping my tone would convey the urgency of my situation. Lily, as always, brushed off my concerns. Oh, we won't be a bother. Just carry on. Before I could protest, they were inside, Lily making herself comfortable on the couch and flipping on the TV, the volume loud enough to drown out the gentle strains of the violin. I closed the door and turned to them, frustration simmering. Lily, really? I'm working. This isn't a good time. Lily waved a dismissive hand. Relax, Ava. It's just a bit of TV. Besides, Emily's hungry. You don't mind if she grabs something to eat, do you? Before I could answer, Emily was already rummaging through my fridge, the quiet hum of my home now replaced by the blaring TV and the clatter from the kitchen. I returned to my student, trying to salvage the lesson, but the disturbance was too much. Notes were missed, and the focus was lost. The lesson ended early, with apologies and a promise to make up for the lost time. Once the door closed behind my student, I turned to confront Lily, my patience worn thin. Lily, this has to stop. You can't just barge in here and take over. I have students, I have a schedule, and I have my own life. Lily looked up, unfazed. Oh, lighten up, Ava. It's not like we're here all the time. And your family. Family helps each other out. I felt a surge of anger. Helping out is one thing. Taking over is another. You're disrupting my work, Lily. And Emily, going through my fridge without asking? That's not okay. Emily, who had been quietly snacking at the kitchen counter, looked up, her eyes wide. I'm sorry, Aunt Ava. I just thought. I sighed, my anger softening at her genuine apology. It's okay, Emily. Just please ask next time. Turning back to Lily, I knew I had to stand my ground. Lily, listen. I love you, you're my sister. But if you're going to come over, I need you to respect my space and my rules. The room fell silent, the tension thick. Lily got up, her movements deliberate. Fine, Ava. Have it your way. Come on, Emily, let's go. After a week of silence, Lily's knock on my door felt like a bad omen. I opened the door with a guarded expression, bracing myself for another round of uninvited chaos. Ava, let's go shopping. A girl's day out, what do you say? Lily's voice was chirpy, but her eyes were calculating. I hesitated. I don't know, Lily. I've got a lot on my plate. Before I knew it, we were in the mall, Lily and Emily sweeping through stores like a whirlwind, piling clothes upon clothes on their arms. Ava, look at this dress. Isn't it gorgeous? Lily held up a sequined number, her face alight with excitement. It's nice, I replied, my enthusiasm failing to match hers. As we approached the checkout, Lily's demeanor changed. She patted her purse with a frown. Oh no. I think I forgot my card at home. My heart sank. I knew where this was heading. Lily, that's a lot of clothes. Maybe we can put some back? I suggested, hoping to minimize the damage. But Lily was already handing the clothes to the cashier. Ava, could you cover this for me? I'll pay you back, I promise. Reluctantly, I handed over my card, my stomach churning. The total amount flashed on the screen, a stark reminder of Lily's disregard for my finances. The ride home was tense. Lily chattered on, oblivious to my discomfort, while Emily sat quietly, her eyes apologetic. Ava, you're a lifesaver. I'll transfer the money to you first thing tomorrow, Lily declared as she got out of the car. I nodded, though I had little hope of seeing that money anytime soon. Lily, this can't happen again. I'm not a bank. Lily's smile faltered. Oh, Ava, don't be like that. We're family. And family helps each other out, right? But her words felt hollow, a poor excuse for taking advantage of my goodwill. As they disappeared into their house, I sat in my car, the weight of betrayal heavy on my shoulders. Days turned into weeks, and the echo of Lily's empty promises to repay the money for the shopping spree still hung in the air. I tried to brush it off, to focus on my lessons and the quiet comfort of my home. But the sense of unease, the feeling of being taken advantage of, lingered. Then, without warning, Lily appeared on my doorstep again, Emily in tow, her eyes downcast. Ava, we're in a bit of a bind, Lily started, her voice carrying an all too familiar note of desperation. Emily needs school supplies, and I'm strapped right now. I felt a tug at my heart as I looked at Emily, her expression a silent plea. Despite my frustration with Lily, I couldn't bear the thought of Emily going without. Okay. I sighed, my resolve weakening. Let's go get what you need, Emily. Lily flashed a relieved smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. There was a shadow there, a hint of something more, something I couldn't quite place. We kept the shopping trip short, sticking to the essentials. But as I handed over my card to pay, a simmering anger began to bubble up within me. Lily's promises were as flimsy as the receipts in my hand. A couple of days later, I was in the midst of a rare moment of peace when an unexpected knock at the door shattered it. A courier stood there, a pile of expensive clothes in his arms. I have a delivery for Ms. Ava, he said, offering me the package. Confusion clouded my mind. I didn't order these, I replied, my brow furrowed. That's when Lily, who had been lounging on my couch, casually strolled over. Oh, those are mine. I had them sent here. You don't mind paying for these too, right, Ava? The audacity of her request hit me like a slap in the face. This wasn't just borrowing, this was entitlement, pure and unabashed. Lily, no. Absolutely not. This has to stop, I snapped, the frustration and anger I'd been holding back finally boiling over. I'm not your personal ATM. You need to return every penny I've lent you, and you're paying for these clothes yourself. Lily's face twisted into a scowl, her usual charm replaced by indignation. Wow, Ava, really? After all the times I've helped you. Helped me? I echoed, incredulous. Lily, all you've done is take advantage of me. I can't believe you'd stoop this low. For a moment, Lily seemed taken aback, as if she hadn't expected resistance. But then, her pride took over. Fine, she spat, grabbing the clothes from the courier. Come on, Emily. We're leaving. They stormed out, leaving a wake of tension and unsaid words behind them. The door slammed shut, but the impact of what had just happened reverberated through the empty house. The house was silent, the kind of silence that feels heavy, filled with words left unsaid and emotions unprocessed. I was still reeling from the confrontation with Lily when the phone rang. It was a call I dreaded, yet somehow expected. It was Mom. Ava, what's this I'm hearing about you and Lily? She's quite upset. Mom's voice was sharp, accusatory. I took a deep breath, searching for calm. Mom, it's a complicated situation. Lily has been. Mom cut me off, her tone brooking no argument. Complicated? It's simple, Ava. Lily is going through a tough time. You should be supporting her, not adding to her troubles. The familiar pang of being misunderstood, of being the unreasonable one, hit me hard. Mom, you don't understand. Lily's been taking advantage of my generosity. She's borrowed money and hasn't paid it back. She even... Again, Mom interrupted, her words laced with disappointment. Ava, she's your sister. Family sticks together. You have more than enough, while she's struggling. Can't you just help her out? The implication stung. Mom, it's not about the money. It's about respect. Lily feels entitled to whatever I have. Where do I draw the line? Mom's sigh was loud, exasperated. You're being dramatic, Ava. Lily needs you. We all need to pitch in when family is in trouble. I could feel the old, familiar pressure, the expectation to be the responsible one, the giver. But something had shifted within me. Mom, helping is one thing, but being used is another. I've drawn the line. I'm not going to enable Lily's behavior anymore. There was a pause, and when Mom spoke again, her voice was cold. Fine, Ava. If that's how you want to be, then so be it. But remember, family is all we have in the end. The line went dead, leaving a ringing silence in my ear. The conversation replayed in my mind, each word weighing heavily on my heart. It was clear that the divide wasn't just between me and Lily, it extended to Mom, to the very idea of what family meant. The role I'd been playing, the ever-supportive, ever-forgiving sister, was one I could no longer sustain. As I sat there, the sun dipping below the horizon, casting long shadows across the room, I realized the magnitude of what had just happened. I had stood up for myself, yes, but at what cost? It was when I noticed the small voids in the spaces once filled with Mark's things that my heart sank. Those weren't just objects, they were fragments of a life once lived, of moments shared. The realization that they were missing sent a wave of despair crashing over me. It was one thing to deal with Lily's financial exploits, but this? This was personal, a violation of sacred memories. In a daze, I racked my brain, trying to piece together who could have done such a thing. Then it hit me, the cat camera. The silent guardian of my home, the unblinking eye that watched over Mr. Whiskers. I rushed to my laptop, my hands trembling as I logged in to view the footage. The screen flickered to life, revealing the heart-wrenching truth. There was Emily, her young face tense with a mix of guilt and fear, her hands clumsily grabbing at the objects that held so much of Mark's essence. Behind her, urging her on, was Lily. The sight of it, the sheer audacity and betrayal, ignited a fury in me that burned with a ferocity I'd never felt before. Without a second thought, I grabbed my phone and dialed Lily's number. The line crackled, then her voice, casual, unaware of the storm about to hit. "Lily," I began, my voice a controlled calm before the tempest. "I know what you did. The camera saw everything. Emily, taking things, your things now, on your orders." There was a moment of silence, a stutter in the rhythm of deceit. "Ava, I don't know what you're talking about," Lily replied, her voice a poorly veiled mask of innocence. "Don't insult me, Lily. The camera doesn't lie. You used your own daughter to steal from me, from Mark's memory. You have to return everything. Now," I demanded, each word laced with a venom born of betrayal. Lily's voice turned cold, a defensive edge sharpening her words. "Ava, you've really lost it. You think I would do that? You think Emily would do that? Don't play games with me, Lily. I saw it all. Return what you took, or I'll have to involve the police," I said, the threat hanging in the air, heavy and undeniable. The line went silent for a heartbeat, 2 heartbeats. Then Lily spoke, her words a hiss of defiance. "You wouldn't dare. You don't have the guts." "I'm not bluffing, Lily. This is your last chance. Return what you took, or I'll take this further," I replied, my resolve as solid as the evidence I had. The line went dead, the silence after echoing louder than the words spoken. I sat there, the phone still in my hand, a sense of surreal disbelief mixing with the raw, unfiltered anger. The breach of trust, the violation of the most intimate memories, it was all laid bare, a wound that refused to be ignored. The atmosphere was tense when Mom, Lily, and Emily arrived at my doorstep. The air was thick with unspoken accusations and the weight of recent events. I could see the anger in Mom's eyes, the desperation in Lily's, and the shame in Emily's as they stepped into the house. "Ava, how could you threaten your own sister with the police? Do you want to ruin her life?" Mom's words were sharp, cutting through the silence like a knife. I stood my ground, the resolve in my heart steeling me against the storm of emotions. "Mom, this isn't about punishment. It's about accountability. Lily crossed a line, and there have to be consequences." Lily's eyes were watery, her usual confidence replaced by a plea for sympathy. "Ava, I'm sorry. I really am. I never meant for things to go this far." But it was Emily's expression that caught my attention. The young girl looked down, her face a portrait of regret and sorrow. It was clear she was carrying a burden far too heavy for her young shoulders. I sighed, the anger in me subsiding, replaced by a profound sadness. "I just wanted my things back, Lily. The money you owed me. That's all." Without a word, Lily reached into her bag and threw a smaller bag at my feet. The clinking sound of the items inside was a stark reminder of the painful breach of trust. She then handed me an envelope, thick with the promise of repaid debts. "There," Lily said, her voice barely above a whisper. "That's everything. Are you happy now?" I picked up the bag and the envelope, my heart heavy. "It's not about being happy, Lily. It's about doing what's right." Mom looked at me, her expression a mix of anger and disappointment. "You've changed, Ava. You used to be forgiving, understanding. Now, look at what you've become." I met her gaze, my voice firm. "I haven't changed, Mom. I've just learned to respect myself enough to set boundaries. I wish you could understand that." The room fell silent, the tension palpable. Then, without another word, Mom, Lily, and Emily turned and left. The sound of the door closing echoed through the house, a definitive end to a painful chapter. In the quiet that followed, I realized that while the confrontation was over, the journey of healing was just beginning. I had stood up for myself, defended what was rightfully mine, but at the cost of family ties that were now more fragile than ever. The only solace in this storm was Emily. Despite everything, she remained a faint ray of hope. Our occasional correspondence, her words filled with genuine remorse and a desire to understand, offered a glimmer of a possible future, one where forgiveness and healing weren't just distant dreams.
My name is Hannah, and we were what you'd call a typical middle-class family. Dad worked as a senior project manager at a construction company, Mom stayed home to take care of us, and my younger sister Amber was the apple of everyone's eye. We lived in a modest house on the outskirts of Cleveland, nothing fancy, but it was home. "Hannah, sweetheart, you don't have to work while you're in college," Dad would tell me repeatedly during my freshman year. "I make enough to support all of us." But I was stubborn. Even with my full scholarship covering tuition, I wanted my own money. So I took a part-time job at Wilson's department store, working evenings and weekends between classes. Everything changed during my sophomore year. It was a regular Tuesday in March when I got the call that would turn our lives upside down. I was stocking shelves at Wilson's when my phone buzzed. "Hannah?" Mom's voice was barely a whisper. "Your father, he had a heart attack at work. They couldn't save him." The fluorescent lights of the store suddenly seemed too bright. The generic pop music playing overhead became distant and muffled. I remember sliding down against the shelf, my knees giving out. At the funeral, Mom put on a brave face. "Don't worry about money, Hannah," she assured me, squeezing my hand. "Your father left us enough to last a few years. You focus on your studies." I believed her. Dad had always been responsible with money, working extra hours and taking on additional projects to ensure we'd be secure. He told me once that he had a substantial life insurance policy and savings set aside. That spring, I threw myself into my studies and work, trying to cope with the loss. Mom and Amber seemed to be handling it in their own way, though I noticed they were shopping more than usual. I didn't think much of it at the time. Grief makes people do strange things, right? Then came the phone call that would shatter whatever remained of our normal life. "Hannah," Mom's voice was tense. "You need to come home this weekend. We need to talk." That weekend, I drove home with my stomach in knots. Mom and Amber were waiting in the living room when I arrived. "What's going on?" I asked, dropping my bag by the door. The living room had new furniture, I noticed. Dad's old comfortable armchair was gone. Mom wrung her hands, avoiding my eyes. "Hannah, sweetie, there's something I need to tell you." She took a deep breath. "The money, it's gone. All of it." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What do you mean, gone?" "Dad left us enough for years. How could it all be gone in less than 12 months? "Well," Mom started explaining, her voice defensive but also somehow proud, as if she was listing achievements. "Amber needed a prom dress, she only gets one prom, after all. And then after graduation, she and her friends went to Mexico for 2 weeks." "Mexico?" I interrupted, my voice rising. "With Dad's life insurance money?" "We needed to get away." Amber jumped in, as if a vacation was as essential as breathing. "And then there was my birthday party, everyone said it was the best party of the year. And Mom and I joined some really nice social clubs. We were just so sad about your father, honey," Mom added quickly. "We needed to live a little, take our minds off things. You understand, don't you? Life is short, your father's passing taught us that. We need to enjoy ourselves while we can." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The complete disconnect from reality was staggering. Take your minds off things? By blowing through Dad's entire life insurance policy? "Mom, you need to distract yourself by getting a job, not by mindlessly spending money on nonsense." "Hannah," Mom gasped, as if I'd said something shocking. "Don't you understand?" I continued. "Money doesn't just fall from the sky. Did Dad ever spend money like this? No. Because he understood its value. He worked hard for every penny. And now it's all gone because you two decided to live a little? Mom's face crumpled, and she clutched her chest dramatically. Oh, so now you want me to die of a heart attack too, just like your father? Is that what you want? To kill your mother with stress? I stood there, stunned into silence. While they sat there acting like victims, I noticed the details I'd missed at first, the past due notices partially hidden under magazines, the shut-off warning from the electric company on the counter. Walking into the kitchen, I opened cabinets one by one. Almost empty. I checked the freezer. Nothing but ice cream and frozen desserts. They'd been living like teenagers home alone for the first time, spending without any thought of tomorrow. How much is left? I asked quietly, already dreading the answer. Well, Mom hesitated. There are some credit card bills. The reality of the situation hit me like a ton of bricks. This was it. Everything Dad had worked for, everything he'd saved to secure our future, gone. All the extra hours he'd put in, all the careful planning he'd done to make sure we'd be okay, wasted in less than a year of reckless spending. Looking at my mother and sister's faces, I saw no real understanding of what they'd done. No comprehension of the magnitude of their actions. I had to drop out of school and come home. Someone had to be the adult here, and clearly, it would have to be me. Coming back home felt like moving backwards. Within a week, I had landed a job at SuperValue as a cashier. The manager, Mr. Thompson, seemed to understand my situation. Look, Hannah, he said during my interview, I can also offer you some merchandising hours after your main shift. It's not glamorous, but it's extra money. I took it without hesitation. My days now started at 7 a.m. behind the register and ended at 10 p.m. stocking shelves. The work was exhausting, but at least it was something. Then came the first time Mom and Amber showed up at my checkout line. Their cart was overflowing with premium brands and out-of-season produce. Oh good, you're working, Mom beamed, as if she'd just run into me at a party. We need to stock up the house. I started scanning their items, watching the total climb higher and higher. When it hit $287.43, Mom just smiled and gestured toward me. Hannah will take care of this, she said cheerfully to the other cashier who had come to help bag. I ended up paying, watching a huge chunk of my day's earnings disappear in a single transaction. But that was just the beginning. The next week, Amber bounced into the store with an announcement, I'm going vegetarian, it's so much healthier. I thought being vegetarian might actually save us money, until I saw her version of a vegetarian diet. Organic everything. Premium nuts at $15 per pound. Fresh berries in winter. Exotic vegetables I couldn't even pronounce. Every shopping trip became more expensive than the last. At the end of my first month, I sat down with the receipts spread across the kitchen table. We spent over $1,200 on groceries this month, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. We need to cut back. Maybe buy generic brands or shop the sales. I am not compromising my health, Amber interrupted, her voice rising to a shrill pitch. Do you know how important it is to eat organic? The pesticides in regular produce literally cause cancer. We can eat healthy without. You just don't understand, Amber shouted. This isn't some luxury, Hannah. This is my health. Girls, please, Mom cut in, one hand pressed to her chest. All this arguing, my heart. I can't take it. Do you want me to end up like your father? Her voice quivered. The stress. I feel faint. I watched this performance with a growing sense of despair. Between the register and the shelves, I was working nearly 15 hours a day, and for what? To fund their latest whims, while they refused to even consider looking for work themselves. But every time I tried to bring up budgeting, the response was the same, Amber's outrage and Mom's heart problems. Looking at them now, Mom dabbing at her eyes while Amber glared at me self-righteously over her $7 organic smoothie, I realized this was going to be my life for the foreseeable future. 6 months had passed since I started working at SuperValue. 6 months of double shifts, aching feet, and watching my paychecks disappear into the black hole of my family's expenses. Meanwhile, Amber hadn't worked a single day since graduation. One evening, I found her sprawled on the couch, scrolling through Instagram on her phone. I'd just finished a 15-hour shift, and something in me snapped. "Amber, we need to talk," I said, dropping into Dad's old recliner. "I can't keep doing this alone. I'm exhausted. You need to get a job." Her lower lip started trembling immediately. "You don't understand, Hannah. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do with my life." Actually, she sat up, suddenly animated. "Jessica and Madison just signed up for these amazing personal growth courses. They say it really helps you find your purpose." I stared at her in disbelief. "Personal growth courses? Are you kidding me? They're really transformative." Tears started rolling down her cheeks. "I need this right now. I'm going through so much." "Going through what exactly?" I couldn't keep the edge out of my voice. "Jessica and Madison can take all the courses they want because their parents are loaded. Our situation is different. Dad is gone, Mom doesn't work, and I'm killing myself trying to keep this family afloat. We can't afford for you to find yourself right now." "Hannah," Mom appeared in the doorway, right on cue. "How dare you speak to your sister like that? Can't you see she's still processing everything?" "Processing?" I echoed. "It's been a year, Mom." "Amber is a very sensitive soul," Mom insisted, moving to sit beside my sister. "She needs time to heal. She's still so fragile from losing her father. We can't push her before she's ready." I looked between them, Mom stroking Amber's hair while my sister sniffled dramatically, and felt a wave of exhaustion that went bone deep. This had become my life, working 2 jobs while they lived in a fantasy world where money magically appeared and adult responsibilities could be indefinitely postponed. The months crawled by. 1 year since Dad's death, 1 year of double shifts and constant exhaustion. The house was starting to show serious signs of wear. The roof leaked, the furnace made concerning noises, and the plumbing was increasingly unreliable. I managed to set up a separate savings account for house repairs. Every month, I put aside whatever I could, trying to build up enough for at least the essential fixes. "Mom," I said one evening, pulling up my banking app. "I'm going to give you access to this account, but it's only for groceries, okay? The rest needs to be saved for repairs. The house needs work, and we can't keep putting it off." She placed her hand over mine, eyes wide and earnest. "Of course, sweetheart. I understand completely. Don't worry about a thing." Despite Mom keeping her word about the grocery money, the house repairs fund wasn't growing fast enough. One evening, my friend Sarah called with what seemed like the perfect solution. "Hannah, we're hiring at my startup," she said excitedly. "It's perfect for Amber. The CEO is super into healthy living, he's actually vegetarian too. We need someone for the front desk, just basic admin stuff. No experience needed." I sat up straighter. "Really? What would she need to do?" "Just answer phones, greet clients, handle some emails. Make coffee, that kind of thing. The pay is decent, and the vibe is really young and casual. Think she'd be interested?" It sounded almost too perfect. "I'll talk to her tonight." To my complete shock, Amber actually seemed enthusiastic when I told her about it. "A startup? That sounds so cool," she exclaimed. "And the boss is vegetarian? That's like, totally meant to be." The first week went better than I could have hoped. Amber came home each day bubbling with stories about the amazing office culture and how everyone was so authentic. But by the end of the second week, the tune had changed dramatically. "Ugh, these clients are so demanding," Amber complained, slumping onto the couch. "They expect me to be, like, super professional on the phone or whatever. And Dave is constantly on my case." "Dave?" I asked. "The CEO. He had the nerve to tell me my phone manner wasn't appropriate. Like, excuse me for being genuine instead of fake professional." My stomach dropped. "What exactly did he say?" He said I can't say yeah and like, when I'm talking to clients, she huffed. And apparently I need to actually write down messages instead of just trying to remember them. It's so toxic. The situation deteriorated rapidly. The next day, I got a call from Sarah. "Hannah, we need to talk about Amber," she said quietly. "Dave's thinking of letting her go." She had a complete meltdown when he asked her to create a spreadsheet of incoming calls. My heart sank. "Give me his number, Sarah, please. Let me talk to him." The call with Dave lasted 45 minutes. I explained about our father's death, about Amber's sensitivity, about how she just needed time to adjust to workplace expectations. In the end, he agreed to give her another chance. The next month brought what seemed like a positive change. Amber was still at her job, and for once, she actually seemed content. "The clients aren't so bad once you get used to them," she admitted one evening over dinner. "And Dave said my phone manner has improved." I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. Maybe this was the turning point we needed. Maybe Amber was finally growing up and learning responsibility. Then came payday. I was restocking shelves at SuperValue when Amber burst in, practically floating with excitement. Hannah, I got my first real paycheck." "That's great," I smiled, genuinely happy for her. "Are you going to open a savings account? I can help you set up a budget if you want." But Amber wasn't listening. She was already halfway out the door, clutching her paycheck like a golden ticket. "Can't talk now. Meeting the girls at the mall." That evening, Amber came home laden with shopping bags. New clothes from expensive boutiques. Designer shoes. And a brand new iPhone, financed on a 24-month contract. "Amber," I said carefully, "did you spend your entire paycheck?" Obviously, she rolled her eyes. "I need to look professional at work. These are investment pieces." She pulled out a silk blouse that probably cost more than I made in 2 days. "Besides, it's my money. I earned it." "But what about helping with the bills? The house repairs?" "Oh my God, Hannah, stop being such a buzzkill. I worked hard for this money. I deserve nice things." I swallowed my frustration. Maybe she just needed time to learn about financial responsibility. Maybe next month would be different. It wasn't. Another month passed. I was in the middle of my shift at SuperValue when my phone rang. It was Sarah. "Hannah?" Her voice was hesitant. "I don't know how to tell you this, but Amber just quit. She got her paycheck and walked out. Dave is furious." My stomach dropped. "She what?" "She didn't even give notice. Just took her check and left." "I'm so sorry, Hannah. I feel terrible about recommending her." "It's not your fault," I said automatically, my mind already racing. "I need to go." I left work early, driving home with my hands clenched on the steering wheel. The house was eerily quiet when I arrived. No lights on, no response to my calls. "Mom? Amber?" Nothing. The closets were open, clothes missing. The suitcases from the attic, gone. A sick feeling started building in my gut as I ran to my laptop. With trembling fingers, I logged into my bank account. The repair fund that I'd been building for months, the one Mom had promised only to use for groceries, the one that was supposed to fix our crumbling house, cleaned out. Only $200 remained. My phone buzzed with a message from Amber. "Don't freak out. Mom and I really needed a break. We're heading to Hawaii for 2 weeks. Don't worry about trying to find us, we'll be back eventually. Love you." Before I could even process that, another message. "By the way, I know you're probably mad about the money, but try to understand. Money comes and goes, but mental health is priceless. We really needed this vacation for our healing journey. You can always make more money, but you can't put a price on self-care." I stared at the messages, reading them over and over as the reality of the situation sank in. My mother and sister hadn't just stolen my money. They had taken advantage of every ounce of trust, hope, and love I had left. My first impulse was to call the police. I even had my phone in hand, finger hovering over the keypad. But then I thought about Mom's heart condition. Even though I knew she often exaggerated her symptoms for manipulation, there was always that seed of doubt. What if this time it was real? What if the stress of legal trouble actually triggered something serious? I couldn't risk having that on my conscience. Looking around the house, my eyes fell on the new refrigerator I bought last month. Then the dishwasher. The washing machine. The large TV in the living room. All the furniture I'd carefully selected, piece by piece, preparing for the renovation that would never happen now. Everything paid for with my own money, from all those double shifts and missed weekends. I called my friend Rachel, trying to keep my voice steady. "Hey," I said, "remember when you mentioned your parents had that empty house they were trying to rent?" "Yeah, they still haven't found tenants." "Why?" I took a deep breath. "Would they consider renting it to me? I need to get out of here." Rachel didn't ask for details. That's what I loved about her. "Let me call them right now." Within an hour, she called back. They said yes. "And they're willing to give you a break on the rent, half price. They know how hard you work, Hannah." I spent the next day making calls to moving companies, getting quotes. Then I started making lists of everything I'd purchased over the past year. It took 3 days to orchestrate everything. The movers came early in the morning, following my detailed instructions. The refrigerator, the washer, the TV. The new couch and armchairs. The dining set. Even the faucets and shower heads I'd installed myself. Everything I'd bought with my own money, down to the last throw pillow. Once everything was moved into Rachel's parents' house, I made one final stop, at SuperValue. Mr. Thompson was in his office, doing paperwork. "Hannah," he said, looking up. "What's wrong?" I told him everything. About the theft, about needing to move, about wanting a fresh start. "Is there any way I could transfer to a different store?" I asked. "Somewhere they won't think to look for me?" He didn't hesitate. "The Gateway location needs experienced staff. It's actually closer to where you'll be living now. I can make a call right now. And, could you ask everyone here not to tell my family where I've gone? When they come looking?" "Consider it done," he said firmly. "You're one of my best employees, Hannah. We take care of our own." By the end of the week, I was settled into my new home, working at my new store location. The house wasn't big, but everything fit perfectly: my furniture, my appliances, my fresh start. For the first time in over a year, I felt like I could breathe. Somewhere in Hawaii, my mother and sister were probably still sipping cocktails on the beach, congratulating themselves on their self-care journey. They had no idea that when they returned, they'd find half a house waiting for them. 2 weeks after I moved out, the messages started flooding in. First came the threats from Mom. "I'm calling the police. You stole our furniture, our appliances." Then came the angry voicemails from Amber. "How could you do this to us? We're your family. You're so selfish." I let them all go to voicemail, deleted the emails unread, ignored the texts. Mr. Thompson called one day to tell me they'd shown up at my old store. "Your mother was causing quite a scene," he said. "Security had to escort them out." "Don't worry, nobody told them anything." A month into my new life, Mom sent what I knew would be her trump card. "Hannah, my heart. The doctors say it's serious. I could die any moment. Please call me. Your mother needs you." Against my better judgment, I called. To my complete lack of surprise, Mom answered sounding perfectly healthy and cheerful. "Hannah, sweetheart. We've learned our lesson. You really showed us how wrong we were. We'll never take advantage again. Please come home." I heard Amber in the background, "Tell her we need groceries. We haven't eaten properly in days. Tell her to bring food when she comes back." The familiar anger rose in my chest, but this time it was accompanied by something else: clarity. I'm not coming back, I said quietly. But we've changed, Mom protested. We understand now. No, you haven't, and no, you don't. You're still trying to manipulate me. Still trying to make me responsible for you. I'm done. I hung up and immediately blocked their numbers, their emails, their social media, everything. It felt like setting down a heavy weight I'd been carrying for too long. Life got better after that. My new manager at Gateway SuperValue noticed my work ethic and offered me an administrator position with a substantial pay raise. For the first time since Dad died, I had breathing room in my budget. I started saving again, this time in an account only I could access. Through family friends, I hear bits and pieces about Mom and Amber. They both got jobs at a local cafe, working opposite shifts. But old habits die hard, they're still living paycheck to paycheck, buying whatever catches their eye. The house, which was once Dad's pride and joy, is slowly falling apart. Last I heard, the roof was leaking in 3 places. Sometimes, in quiet moments, I think about reaching out. The door isn't permanently closed, at least, I don't think it is. But they'd need to show real change first. Not just words, not just promises, but actual evidence that they've grown up and learned to be responsible. They'd need to fix the house, learn to manage money, stop expecting others to bail them out. Until then, I'm focusing on my own life. I'm saving up for a reliable used car, and after that, I plan to re-enroll in college. Maybe not full-time at first, but a few classes each semester. Dad always said education was something no one could take away from you. He was right about that, like he was right about so many things. My phone still lights up sometimes with messages from unknown numbers, Mom and Amber trying new ways to reach me. I delete them without reading them. Maybe someday we'll have a relationship again, but it will have to be a different one. A healthier one. For now, I'm living my life for myself, and for the first time in a long time, that feels exactly right.
I stood there, numb, as the last clump of dirt hit the polished wood of Dad's coffin. The cemetery was filled with a quiet sort of sadness, the kind that fills your chest and sits heavy on your heart. Family and a few close friends were scattered around, their faces somber, eyes glistening with unshed tears. I glanced at Mom. She was calm, too calm. It was as if the whole thing, Dad's death, didn't really touch her. I wanted to believe she was just strong, but a small voice in my head whispered doubts. As people started to leave, offering me sympathetic looks and awkward pats on the back, I felt more alone than ever. Then there was Uncle Joe, Dad's brother, who came up to me, his face etched with grief. "He was a good man, Emily," Uncle Joe said, his voice rough with emotion. "He loved you a lot." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. Dad and I were close, the kind of close where words aren't always needed. After the funeral, I headed back to Mom's place. It felt weird calling it just Mom's now. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that screams in your ears. Mom was in the kitchen, making tea, as if it was just another day. "Mom, are you okay?" I finally asked. She looked up, her expression unreadable. "Yes, dear. I'm fine. You know how your father and I had our differences, but I'm fine." That was Mom, always brushing things off, never wanting to make a fuss. I wanted to push, to ask more, but I knew it was pointless. A couple of weeks later, I was at work, trying to bury myself in mundane tasks, when my phone rang. It was Mom. "Emily, you won't believe who's here," she said, a hint of excitement in her voice. "Who?" I asked, a sense of unease starting to build. "Your sister. Anna's come back." Those words hit me like a ton of bricks. Anna, my older sister, the family's black sheep. I hadn't seen her in years, not since she left home at 22 in a blaze of anger and rebellion. Why is she back?" I managed to ask. "Oh, you know your sister, always full of surprises," Mom replied, as if Anna's return was the most natural thing in the world. I hung up, my mind racing. Memories of Anna, her wild ways, her constant battles with Dad, flooded back. She was the storm to my calm, always stirring up trouble, pushing boundaries until that one fateful night. I shook my head, trying to clear it. Anna was back, and I had no idea what that meant for us, for Mom, or for the fragile peace we'd built in her absence. But one thing was for sure, nothing was going to be the same again. Driving to Mom's house, my mind was a whirlwind of memories, each more vivid and chaotic than the last. I remembered Anna, my older sister, always the storm center in our otherwise calm family life. She was like a live wire, unpredictable and dangerous. Anna's teenage years were a blur of rebellion. I recalled the smell of marijuana sneaking under her bedroom door, the clink of beer bottles in the dead of night. She would bring home different guys, laughing too loud, the music from her room drowning out the sounds of our family's disapproval. Dad used to argue with her, his voice a mix of anger and desperation. "You're throwing your life away, Anna." He'd yell, but she'd just scoff and roll her eyes. He tried everything, grounding her, pleading with her, but nothing worked. Mom was different. She never confronted Anna, always making excuses for her. "She's just a teenager. She'll grow out of it," she'd say to Dad, her voice tinged with an unspoken blame. It was like a silent war between them, one that grew more intense with each passing day. The worst memory, the one that still haunted me, happened when I was 10. Anna had come home drunk, more so than usual. I was asleep, but the sound of her stumbling around, cursing under her breath, woke me up. The next thing I knew, there was smoke. Thick, choking smoke filling the hallway. Anna had knocked over a candle in her room, and the fire caught quickly. I remember screaming for Dad, the fear paralyzing me as he rushed in, his face set in determination. He managed to put the fire out, but that night changed everything. Dad's patience had reached its limit. "I can't do this anymore. You have to leave," he told Anna, his voice breaking. The fallout was immediate. Mom turned on Dad like I'd never seen before. "How could you throw her out? She's your daughter," she cried. Their relationship, already strained, fractured that night. Anna left the next day. She didn't say goodbye, didn't look back, and just like that, she was gone. We didn't hear from her, not even a call or a letter. Dad tried to find her, but it was like she'd vanished yet. Now, years later, as I pulled into the driveway, my heart pounded with a mix of fear and unresolved anger. How could Anna just walk back into our lives as if nothing had happened? As I stepped out of the car, the weight of the past settled on my shoulders, a burden I wasn't sure I was ready to face again. The air was thick with tension as I sat across from Anna in our old kitchen. Her presence, after all these years, felt like an intrusion, a disruption of the fragile peace we'd maintained since she left. "Why now, Anna? After all this time, why show up out of the blue?" I asked, my voice laced with a mix of curiosity and accusation. Anna looked at me, her expression one of indifference. "I heard about Dad's death. Thought it's about time I came back, see what I'm entitled to from the inheritance." Her words hit me like a slap. "Entitled? You didn't even bother to show up for his funeral, and now you talk about inheritance?" "Yeah, well, Dad and I never got along. Can't say I was sad to hear he's gone," she retorted, her tone harsh and unapologetic. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Her blatant disrespect for our father, her greed, it was too much. "You're unbelievable, Anna. You come back after years, not to mourn, but to claim what you think you're owed?" My voice rose, tinged with anger and disbelief. Mom, who had been silent until now, finally spoke up. "Emily, that's enough. Anna has every right to be here. She's family." Family? She's been gone for years, not even a call. And now suddenly she's family? I couldn't hide the bitterness in my voice. Emily, I won't have you speak to your sister like that. She's been through a lot, Mom said, her voice firm, siding with Anna. Anna smirked, as if pleased with Mom's defense. See, Mom understands. I'm back now, that's what matters. The conversation left me feeling like an outsider in my own home. Anna's blunt dismissal of our father's death, her eagerness for the inheritance, and Mom's unwavering support for her. It was all too much to take in. As I left the house that day, my mind was a whirlwind of anger and confusion. The return of my sister had reopened old wounds, and it seemed like the battle lines were being drawn once again, with Mom firmly on Anna's side. A week later, we were all seated in the living room, the air heavy with anticipation and unspoken thoughts. The lawyer, Mr. Jennings, cleared his throat, preparing to read Dad's will. Anna sat upright, her eyes sharp and calculating. Mom looked nervous, wringing her hands. I just felt numb, not sure what to expect. "Let's begin," Mr. Jennings said, his voice formal. "I am here to read the last will and testament of Mr. James Harrison." He started with the usual legal jargon, but we were all waiting for the main part, the distribution of the assets. My heart raced as he finally got to it. "To my daughter, Emily Harrison, I leave the family home and a sum of $2 million. I gasped, unable to believe what I'd just heard. The room went silent, the weight of the revelation sinking in. "And to my daughter, Anna Harrison, I regretfully leave nothing due to her estrangement and actions that have caused deep pain to this family." Anna's face contorted with rage. "What? Nothing? This is bullshit." Mom's face was a mix of shock and disappointment. "James, how could you?" she whispered, more to herself. Mr. Jennings continued, unfazed by Anna's outburst. "And to my wife, Mary Harrison, I leave a monthly allowance to ensure she is cared for." "That's it? A monthly allowance?" Mom's voice was tinged with disbelief and hurt. Anna slammed her hands on the table, standing up abruptly. "This is unfair. He had no right to cut me out like this." I found my voice. "Dad made his decision, Anna. Maybe if you'd been here, been part of this family, it would have been different." "Shut up, Emily. You always were the golden child, weren't you? Dad's little favorite." Anna spat, her eyes blazing with anger. Mom turned to me, her expression one of betrayal. "Emily, can't you do something? Share the inheritance? It's what your father would have wanted." I shook my head, feeling a mixture of sadness and resolve. "I can't believe you're asking this, Mom. After everything, Dad's wishes should be respected." Anna stormed out of the room, cursing under her breath. Mom looked at me, her eyes filled with tears, then followed Anna out. Left alone, I sat there, the magnitude of the situation washing over me. My relationship with my sister and mother had been strained before, but now it felt irreparable. Dad's last wishes had not only divided his assets, but also deepened the rift in our already fragmented family. I braced myself as I approached Mom's house, but nothing could have prepared me for the chaos that unfolded before me. The living room was a disaster zone, littered with empty bottles and trash. Anna was in the center of it all, her laughter sharp against the backdrop of loud, blaring music. "What on earth is this, Anna?" I demanded, my voice cutting through the noise. Anna looked up, a sneer on her face. "Look who decided to show up, the millionaire heiress." Her friends eyed me with a mix of curiosity and disdain. I ignored them and turned to Mom, who sat quietly, looking lost and overwhelmed. "Mom, how can you let her do this?" Mom's response was a mere whisper. "She's just trying to cope." "Cope? By turning our home into a bar?" My anger was rising, fast and hot. "Oh, please, spare me the lecture," Anna slurred, her face inches from mine. "You always were Dad's little princess, but now I'm taking back what's mine. Let me have my fun." "This isn't fun, Anna. It's a disaster. You need to leave," I said firmly. That's when Anna's face twisted into a sneer. "Make me leave, Emily. I dare you." I took a step forward, but before I could say anything more, Anna's hand flew up and struck me across the face. The slap echoed in the room, a stark, painful sound. I touched my cheek, disbelief and pain mingling on my face. "That's it. I'm calling the police." Anna's laughter was cold. "Go ahead. Call them. See if I care." I dialed the police, my hand shaking with a mix of fear and anger. As the officers arrived, they assessed the situation quickly. Anna's bravado crumbled as they led her away, her protests and insults trailing behind her. I expected Mom to be shocked, maybe even relieved, but her reaction stunned me. "How could you do this to your own sister?" Mom accused, her eyes filled with tears and anger. "She slapped me, Mom. She was destroying your home," I protested, still reeling from the slap and the surreal turn of events. Mom shook her head, her voice trembling with emotion. "She's still my daughter, and you've turned against her." I stood there, speechless. The police car drove away, taking Anna with it, and the reality of what had just happened sank in. My own mother, siding with Anna after everything that had just transpired. As I left the house, the weight of Mom's words and Anna's actions hung heavily on me. The rift in our family had deepened, perhaps beyond repair, and in that moment, I felt more alone than ever. The days following the incident were some of the hardest I'd ever faced. The image of Anna being led away by the police and Mom's accusing words haunted me. I felt torn, unsure of my next move. Sitting in my quiet, orderly living room, I called my best friend, Laura, needing someone to talk to. "Hey Laura, it's Emily. I don't know what to do." Laura's voice was gentle, a soothing contrast to the turmoil I felt. "What happened, Em?" I recounted the events, my voice wavering as I relived each painful moment. "Emily, you can't keep doing this to yourself. You've done everything you can for your family," Laura said, her tone firm yet kind. "But Mom, she sided with Anna. After everything Anna did," I replied, the hurt evident in my voice. "Sometimes, Emily, you have to think about yourself. You can't fix everything, and you can't keep sacrificing your well-being for them." Her words hit home. I knew she was right, but the thought of cutting ties with my family, especially Mom, was overwhelming. "I know you're right, Laura. It's just hard to accept." "It is hard, but sometimes the hardest decisions are the ones we need to make for our own good." Laura's words stayed with me long after we ended the call. I knew what I had to do, as painful as it was. I couldn't let the chaos and dysfunction of my family drag me down any longer. A few days later, I visited Mom. She was cold, distant. The warmth that once defined our relationship seemed to have vanished. "Mom, we need to talk." I started, my voice steady but my heart aching. "About what, Emily? Have you come to take more away from me?" Her words were sharp, cutting. "Mom, I came to say that I can't keep doing this. What happened with Anna, your reaction? It's too much. I need to step back." Mom's face hardened. "So you're abandoning your family, just like that?" "It's not abandoning, Mom. It's about self-preservation. I can't keep being the one who fixes everything, especially when it hurts me." Mom looked away, her expression unreadable. "If that's your decision, then so be it." Leaving Mom's house that day was one of the most difficult things I had ever done. The finality of it, the sense of a chapter closing, was almost too much to bear. But as I drove away, I knew deep down it was the right decision. For the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of relief, a weight lifting off my shoulders. The path ahead wouldn't be easy, but it was one I needed to take for my own sake. The news that Mom and Anna were living off the meager allowance Dad left in his will was a shock. I couldn't shake off the image of them struggling, so I decided to see it for myself. What I found was far worse than I imagined. Their apartment was in a rundown part of town, the building worn and uncared for. Inside, the scene was dismal, the air stale with the smell of cigarettes and alcohol. The floor was littered with cigarette butts and empty bottles, a testament to their daily life. Anna was sprawled on a shabby couch, her face flushed from drinking, a bottle clutched loosely in her hand. Mom sat beside her, her once meticulous appearance now disheveled, her eyes dull and resigned. "Mom, how can you live like this?" I asked, my voice a mix of concern and disbelief. Mom looked up, her eyes narrowing. "We manage. We don't have the luxury of a fancy house and money, like some people." Her words stung, but I pressed on. "Mom, you can't stay here. It's not safe. Come live with me." Mom's laugh was bitter. "Oh, now you want to help? After everything, you just waltz in here and expect us to jump at your offer?" "It's not like that, Mom. I'm worried about you," I pleaded. Anna stirred, her voice slurred but venomous. "She's just trying to ease her guilty conscience. She got everything, and we got nothing." "I'm not the enemy, Anna. I'm trying to help," I said, frustration mounting. Mom stood up, her body trembling with anger. "Help? Your father and you've done nothing but look down on us. You think because you have his money, you're better than us?" "Mom, please. It's not about the money. I just want you to be safe." I tried to explain, but my words fell on deaf ears. "No, Emily. You made your choice. You chose his side over your own family," Mom said, her voice laced with scorn. I looked at them, at the squalid apartment, at the life they had chosen. I realized then that my offer, my concern, meant nothing to them. They had made their choice, and so had I. As I left, the door closing behind me felt like the end of an era. The pain of their rejection, the harshness of their words, and the reality of our broken family hit me all at once. Walking away, I knew this was the last time I would try to bridge the gap between us. It was time to let go, not out of indifference, but out of a need to find my own peace. The path ahead was uncertain, but it was mine to walk, free from the shadows of a past that I could not change. In the months that followed my decision to walk away from Mom and Anna, I found myself grappling with a mixture of emotions. There were moments of intense loneliness, punctuated by feelings of liberation. It was a strange, bittersweet freedom. One evening, as I sat in my living room, the silence not as oppressive as it used to be, my phone rang. It was Laura. "Hey, Emily, how are you holding up?" she asked, her voice always a source of comfort. "I'm okay, Laura. It's been tough, but I'm getting there," I replied, a hint of resolve in my voice. "You know, Em, sometimes the hardest decisions lead to the best outcomes. You're strong, and you'll get through this." Her words were a reminder of the strength I had found in myself, a strength I never knew I had. "Yeah, I'm starting to see that. It's just, I miss them, you know?" "It's natural to miss them, Emily. But remember, you're moving forward for a reason." Laura was right. I had made a choice, not just for my well-being, but also to break free from the cycle of dysfunction and pain. In the following weeks, I threw myself into work and started volunteering at a local community center. Helping others brought a sense of purpose and fulfillment that I hadn't felt in a long time. One day, while organizing a charity event at the center, I met Tom, a co-volunteer. His easygoing nature and sense of humor were refreshing. "You're doing a great job, Emily," Tom said as we set up tables for the event. "Thanks, Tom. It feels good to be a part of something positive," I responded, smiling genuinely for the first time in what felt like forever. As we worked together, Tom and I shared stories about our lives, and I opened up about my family, something I hadn't done with anyone in a while. "It sounds like you've been through a lot, but you're turning it into something good," Tom said, his eyes reflecting a mix of admiration and empathy. "Yeah, I guess I am," I said, a sense of pride swelling within me. As the event came to a close, I realized how far I had come. The journey hadn't been easy, but it was mine. I had faced my family's shadows, the pain, and the turmoil, and emerged stronger. Moving forward didn't mean forgetting the past. It meant learning from it, growing, and finding joy in new beginnings. It was about embracing the uncertainty of the future and the possibilities it held.
Growing up, it was like living in two different worlds under the same roof. My sister, Emma, was the star, shining bright with every step she took. Me? I was Lily, the other daughter, blending into the background so well you'd forget I was there. "Emma, darling, how was school today?" Mom would coo the moment Emma stepped through the door, her eyes sparkling with genuine interest. "Killed it, as usual," Emma would reply, tossing her bag down with a confidence I could never muster. "Got an A on the math test, and Mr. Jenkins said I'm a shoo-in for the lead in the school play." "That's my girl." Dad would chime in, his pride swelling like a balloon ready to pop. "Nothing but the best for my princess." I'd usually hover in the doorway, half hoping someone would ask about my day. But it was like I was invisible, a ghost in my own home. "Hey," I'd mutter, more to myself than anyone else, knowing well enough not to expect much of a response. Mom would occasionally throw my way, her attention never veering from Emma's glowing reports. Dinner times were no different. Conversations danced around Emma's achievements, future college plans, and dreams that seemed as reachable for her as the stars. I'd pick at my food, throwing in a comment here and there, only to be drowned out by the next exciting chapter of Emma's life. It wasn't like I didn't have my moments. I did well at school, not that anyone noticed. But it was Emma who had the spotlight, while I lingered in the shadows, applause echoing over to where I stood, silent and unseen. When Emma got her acceptance letter to a prestigious college, the house erupted. It was all they could talk about. Plans were made, budgets adjusted, all for Emma. "I can't believe it. We need to start planning right away. There's so much to do." Mom was practically vibrating with excitement, her mind racing through a checklist of preparations. I knew she could do it. "We'll support you every step of the way, Emma." "Whatever you need," Dad declared, his chest puffed out with pride. Sitting at the edge of the living room, I couldn't help but wonder about my own future. High school was almost over for me too, but there were no college brochures with my name on them, no discussions about my dreams or aspirations. One evening, I gathered my courage, deciding to broach the subject. "Hey, have you guys thought about what happens next for me? College, maybe?" The room went quiet, the kind of silence that's heavy, loaded. Mom and Dad exchanged glances, a silent conversation passing between them before Mom finally spoke. "Lily, you know we're stretched thin with Emma's college fund. Maybe you could take a gap year, find a job, save up some?" "Yeah, sis, college isn't for everyone," Emma added, her voice dripping with a condescension she probably didn't even realize. "Besides, you're not exactly Ivy League material, are you?" The words stung, a slap to my already bruised ego. But I swallowed the hurt, nodding as if I understood, as if it made all the sense in the world. "Right, of course," I mumbled, my dreams deflating like a balloon pricked with a needle. "I'll figure something out." Leaving home wasn't just a choice, it felt like my only shot at proving I wasn't just the leftover daughter. So, I packed up my life into a couple of bags and moved into a cramped apartment with two girls I barely knew. The place was a far cry from comfortable, but it was a start. To keep the roof over my head and chase the college dream, I landed myself not one, but two jobs. My days began before sunrise and ended long after the moon had risen, each day blurring into the next in a relentless cycle of work and exhaustion. "Yo, Lily, you sure you can handle both gigs?" You're running yourself ragged, Jenna, one of my roommates, pointed out one evening as I collapsed onto our second-hand couch. Got no choice, do I? I shot back, trying to massage the day's toil out of my shoulders. It's this, or kiss college goodbye. You're one tough cookie, I'll give you that. Sarah, the other roommate, chimed in, tossing me a sympathetic look. Just don't burn out, alright? We kinda like having you around. Their concern was a balm to the raw edges of my determination. I'll be fine. Just gotta keep at it, I replied, though deep down, the relentless pace was starting to take its toll. And then, as if life decided I hadn't had enough kicks, it threw me a curveball that would knock me flat on my back, literally. I got sick, the kind of sick that laughs in the face of your plans and drains your bank account without a second thought. My savings, every penny I had scrimped and saved for college, vanished like smoke, eaten up by medical bills that my joke of an insurance wouldn't cover. I remember sitting in that cold, sterile hospital room, the numbers on the bill making my head spin. This can't be right, I muttered to myself, hoping it was all just a big mistake. But no, the numbers didn't lie. And neither did the empty pit in my stomach when I realized all the money I'd saved for college was about to be swallowed whole by this disaster. I was out of the hospital, but not out of the woods. No job, no savings, and a body still too weak to even think about working the way I used to. Desperation led me to the one place I vowed I wouldn't go back to, home. Mom, Dad, I need a place to stay, just for a little while. Until I get back on my feet, I said, standing at the doorstep, feeling smaller than ever. The door was barely open a crack, my parents' faces peeking out, their expressions tight. Lily, now's not a good time, Mom said, her voice laced with something like regret, or maybe it was just inconvenience. Yeah, with Emma's wedding and all, we're really stretched thin as it is, Dad added, not meeting my eyes. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Stretched thin? I'm not asking for money, just a roof. Aren't I your daughter too? It's just, Emma's going to move back in after the wedding. Her and Mark need the space. You understand, right? Mom's attempt at sympathy felt like a slap in the face. Understand? No, I don't understand. I snapped, anger boiling over. You've always made room for Emma, always. And here I am, asking for once in my life, and you're telling me there's no space for me? Lily, please, this isn't easy for us either, Dad said, but it was too little too late. Save it. I get it. I've always been the second choice, the backup plan. Well, guess what? I don't need you. Never did. I spat, the words bitter on my tongue. Turning away, I felt the final thread connecting me to this so-called family snap. I was alone, truly alone, but I was determined not to let this be the end of my story. Damn them. Damn all of them, I'd whisper into the darkness, a promise to myself more than anything. I'd get through this, on my own terms. And when I did, I wouldn't look back. After my family turned their backs on me, I hit rock bottom. No cash, no place to crash, nothing. In a moment of sheer desperation, I dialed Aunt June, Mom's sister. Unlike Mom and Dad, Aunt June had always been the straight shooter of the family, never one to mince her words. Hey, Aunt June, it's Lily. I'm kinda in a bind, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Lily? What's wrong, kiddo? Her voice was laced with concern, a stark contrast to the cold reception I'd gotten from my parents. I spilled everything, from the illness that drained my savings to being turned away by my own folks. There was a heavy pause on the line before she finally spoke up. Pack your bags. You're staying with me, she said, no room for argument in her tone. I couldn't believe it. Relief washed over me in an instant. Thank you, Aunt June. I don't know what to say. Don't say anything. Just get here, she replied, and that was that. Staying with Aunt June was like breathing fresh air after being underwater for too long. Her home was modest but warm, filled with the kind of love and acceptance I'd craved for years. 2 weeks into my stay, we sat down at her kitchen table, a pot of her infamous strong coffee between us. "Lily, what do you want to do with your life?" "Really do?" she asked, her gaze piercing. I hesitated, not used to being asked about my dreams. I've always wanted to be a lawyer," I admitted, almost whispering. Aunt June leaned back, considering my words. "A lawyer, huh? That's no easy path. You willing to work for it?" "More than anything," I replied, feeling a spark of hope ignite within me. "All right then. I'll support you, pay for your college. But I've got one condition," she said, her tone serious. "Anything," I said, eager. "You study hard. No slacking, no excuses. You aim for the top, understand? I'm not funding a half-hearted attempt." She laid down her terms, clear as crystal. A grin spread across my face, the first genuine smile in what felt like ages. "You got it, Aunt June. I won't let you down." And just like that, my life took a new direction. I enrolled in college, a fact I kept from the rest of my family. The days were long, classes during the day, studying into the night, and helping Aunt June around the house whenever I could. But for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was on the right path. "Remember, Lily, hard work's the key. You keep at it, and there's nothing you can't achieve," Aunt June would remind me, her belief in me a constant source of strength. "Thanks, Aunt June. I won't forget," I'd promise, holding on to her words like a lifeline. Aunt June's support was my rock, her home my sanctuary. And as I buried myself in my studies, I knew I was building a future where I stood tall, no longer overshadowed or forgotten. A future where I'd make not just Aunt June, but myself proud. Life at college was a mix of hitting the books hard and the occasional release at parties with my classmates. I was pulling double duty, ASL in my studies, and working as a lawyer's assistant. The job didn't make me rich, but it paid enough to cover my needs. Aunt June's place felt more like home every day, and we got real close, like mother and daughter close. One night, out of the blue, she told me, "Lily, I always wished for a kid like you." That hit me deep, made me realize how much I'd come to mean to her. My crew from college was solid. We'd hit parties when we could, just letting off steam and trying to remember we were still young and alive amidst the chaos of law school. But one night, I got home way later than I planned. Aunt June was up, sitting in the dim light of the living room, looking like she had the weight of the world on her shoulders. As I stumbled in, trying to be quiet but failing miserably, she looked up, her face stern but worried. "Lily, we need to talk," she said, her voice cutting through the late-night fog in my brain. "Sure, Aunt June, what's up?" I replied, trying to sound sober and probably failing. "It's about your priorities, kiddo. You've been going to these parties a lot. I see how hard you're working, but I'm worried you're losing sight of why you're here." She laid it out straight, no sugarcoating. I felt a lump in my throat. She was right. "I'm sorry, Aunt June. You're right. I've been messing up. It won't happen again, I promise. My studies and the job, they're my priority." I lost track of that. Aunt June's expression softened. "I know you're young and need to have fun, but you've got a rare chance here, Lily. Don't waste it. I believe in you, always have. Just, make sure you're not spreading yourself too thin, alright?" "Thanks, Aunt June. I needed to hear that. No more parties for me. It's time to buckle down even harder," I said, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. From that day on, I cut out the distractions. I dived deeper into my studies and work, determined to make Aunt June proud and to not let myself down. The parties and late nights gave way to early mornings in the library and long hours at the law office. It wasn't easy, balancing it all, but knowing I had Aunt June's support and believing in the path I'd chosen kept me going. My classmates noticed the shift. "Lily's gone all in, huh? Barely see her out anymore," they'd say. But I knew I was making the right call. The goal wasn't just to get through law school, it was to excel, to build a future I could be proud of. 7 years zipped by faster than I ever thought possible. There I was, standing on the graduation stage at 27, with my name being called out for excellence. In that sea of faces, there was one that stood out, glowing with a mix of happiness and pride, Aunt June. She was the only family I had there, the only one I needed. Her support had been unwavering, her faith in me unshakable. As I walked across the stage to receive my accolades, I caught her eye and saw a tear roll down her cheek. It was a moment I'd never forget. "This is for us, Aunt June," I whispered under my breath, my heart full. After graduation, I landed a job at a prestigious law firm. It felt like a dream. All those years of grinding, studying, and working had paid off. I was making a name for myself, proving I wasn't just the overlooked second child. One evening, Aunt June and I sat down for one of our heart-to-hearts. She had a way of turning any conversation into a deep reflection on life. "You've done so well for yourself, Lily. I always knew you had it in you," she said, her voice warm but tired. "Thanks to you, Aunt June. You believed in me when no one else did," I replied, feeling a mix of gratitude and concern for her evident fatigue. That's when she dropped the news about Emma. "Your sister, well, she didn't finish college. Got pregnant and married her classmate. They're living with your folks now, all cozy with their 3 kids. I hope they're happy," was all I could muster, but inside, I couldn't help but wonder about the what-ifs. Our conversation was cut short when Aunt June's illness became apparent. It came out of nowhere, hitting us like a freight train. Before I knew it, she was gone. The woman who had been my rock, my family, left me in a world that suddenly seemed too big and too empty. In her will, Aunt June left me her house. It was a beautiful gesture, but it paled in comparison to the loss of her presence. I moved in, surrounded by memories of our time together, each room a testament to her love and belief in me. Alone in that house, I realized how much Aunt June had shaped my life. She had given me more than a roof over my head, she had given me the strength to chase my dreams, to rise from the ashes of my past. Several months after Aunt June's passing, life threw me another curveball. My family, who hadn't bothered with me in years, suddenly decided to show up on my doorstep. The reason? The inheritance Aunt June left me. The moment they walked in, Emma started eyeing the place like a hawk scoping out its next meal, talking about moving in with her husband and kids as if I wasn't even there. "This kitchen's perfect for the kids' breakfast. And look at that backyard. They'll love it," Emma said, parading around like she owned the place. Stunned by her nerve, I tried to interject. "Hold on. This is my house. You can't just decide to move in." That's when my parents chimed in, echoing Emma's sentiment, with a logic that was lost on me. "Lily, you're all by yourself here. Emma needs the space more than you do." "It's only fair," my mom argued, as if fairness had ever been a priority in our family. The gall of their request hit me like a punch to the gut. Memories of being turned away when I was at my lowest flooded back. "Fair? You call this fair?" I shot back, my voice rising. "Where was this family fairness when I was sick and needed a place to stay? You turned me away, remember? And now you want my house?" They brushed off my words like they were nothing, continuing their tour of the house as if I hadn't spoken. Emma and her husband whispered to each other about where they'd place their furniture, while my parents debated which rooms would be best for the kids. I couldn't believe the audacity. "You're not listening to me. This house is mine, left to me by Aunt June, not you. You made it clear years ago, we're hardly family when you shut me out. You can't just waltz back into my life and demand I hand over everything." But it was like talking to a wall. Their arrogance was impenetrable, their entitlement to my life's refuge, baffling. "Look at this room, it'll be perfect for the baby," Emma said, blatantly ignoring my protests. That was the last straw. "Enough. Get out of my house. Now," I demanded, my patience completely shattered. They hesitated, taken aback by my firm stance. Finally, my dad muttered, "Let's go," herding Emma and her family out the door, but not without parting shots of calling me selfish and greedy. As I slammed the door behind them, a mix of relief and anger washed over me. The audacity of their visit was astounding. But in that moment, I also felt a deep sense of pride. Aunt June's house was a symbol of the strength and independence I had fought so hard to achieve. I wasn't about to let anyone take that away from me, family or not. After a long day filled with back-to-back cases at the law firm, I was looking forward to the quiet comfort of my home. However, as I approached the front door, my key refused to turn in the lock. Confusion turned to disbelief when I realized the locks had been changed. Knocking hard, I barely had time to process the situation when the door swung open. There stood my sister, Emma, flanked by her husband and their children, an air of defiance about her. "We've decided to move in. It's better for the kids, and there's plenty of space," Emma stated matter-of-factly, as if it was the most natural decision in the world. I stared at them, a mix of anger and shock coursing through me. "This is my house. You can't just decide to move in and change the locks without my permission. I'll call the police if I have to." Emma scoffed, her husband smirking by her side. "Go ahead. They won't do anything. We're family." But I wasn't bluffing. I dialed the police, my fingers trembling with a cocktail of emotions. Before long, my parents arrived, turning the situation into a full-blown family confrontation. Voices rose, tensions flared, and amidst the chaos, Emma's husband made a veiled threat towards me. I didn't hesitate. I pulled out my phone and started recording, capturing his words and the ensuing uproar. He lunged for my phone, but I dodged, holding my ground. The arrival of the police cut through the noise. I explained the situation, showing them the deed to the house in my name and the video of the threats made against me. My mother, tears streaming down her face, tried to appeal to the officers. "Please, she's our daughter. This is just a misunderstanding among family." But I stood firm, the weight of my aunt's legacy and my own hard-won independence anchoring me. They broke into my home and tried to force me out. "That's not a misunderstanding. It's a crime." The officers nodded, their presence bringing a semblance of order to the chaos. After a tense discussion, it was clear the law was on my side. My family, realizing the seriousness of their actions, reluctantly left my property. The moment they were gone, I exhaled a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. The police advised me to change the locks again and consider a restraining order if the harassment continued. I called a locksmith immediately, ensuring this breach of my sanctuary would never happen again. After all that drama with my family trying to barge into my life and take over my house, things got pretty loud for a while. My sister, Emma, went around telling everyone who'd listen about how I'd supposedly turned cold and heartless. She even took to social media, posting pictures of her kids with these sappy captions about wanting a big house to live in. Trying to make me out to be the villain in her little sob story. But you know what? I couldn't care less. I saw those posts, sure. Scrolled right past them. I was done playing their games, letting them make me feel small. I cut off communication with them entirely. It was like shedding a weight I didn't even know I was carrying. Then, in the middle of sorting out my life and figuring out my next steps, I met someone. His name's Mike, and he's about as straightforward and genuine as they come. We bumped into each other at a local coffee shop, of all places. I was trying to balance my laptop and a cup of too hot coffee, and he just swooped in, saving the day before I made a complete mess. "Whoa, careful there," he laughed, steadying my laptop with one hand while helping me sit down with the other. "Thanks," I said, feeling a bit flustered but grateful. I'm usually not this clumsy. "I don't know, seems like you were about to give that laptop a coffee bath." "I'm Mike, by the way." He introduced himself with an easy smile. "I'm Lily," I replied, and something about the way he looked at me made me feel like maybe, just maybe, things were starting to look up. Mike and I hit it off pretty quickly. He had this way of making me laugh, really laugh, in a way I hadn't in a long time. Before I knew it, we were seeing each other almost every day. He'd come over, and we'd talk about everything and nothing until the early hours of the morning. It was easy, comfortable, and exactly what I needed. It wasn't long after that Mike moved in. It felt right, like he was meant to be there all along. Together, we turned my house into a home, filled with love, laughter, and an unspoken understanding that no matter what came our way, we'd face it together. And to anyone who's still listening to Emma's stories and feeling sorry for her, well, they don't know the half of it. I've learned that some battles aren't worth fighting, and the only approval I need is my own. This is my life, my new beginning, and I wouldn't have it any other way.